it's supposed to be. Come on. What the heck? What the heck happened here? Click on the speaker. Yep, yes. I know. Let's see if it's working. Everything's green?
June 24th meeting of the Milltown Borough Council will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Present.
Councilman Farkas?
Here.
Councilman Kerber? Present. Councilman Legati?
Here.
Councilman Mayer? Here. Councilman Revelinsky?
Here.
Council President, we have 6 present.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the open public meeting statement?
Let the minute reflect that adequate notice of holding this regular business meeting of the Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution and posting, filing, forwarding of a copy of the same to the official Borough newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Publishing Companies on May 25th, 2019. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda of scheduled matters has been completed.
We will dispense with items 4 and 5 to a regular meeting or regular items for discussion. Next on the agenda, we have 2 items for discussion. First being the Milltown Fire Department presentation of scholarships.
Otherwise, it's just very low. I just turned it up.
Thank you, council members, members of the public. We're here, as we always are, in June to award our scholarships. In 2001, after the events of September 11th, we were out on Main Street with a booth. People all over were doing what they could just to raise money, just to do something for that tragic event. Our charge from that point forward was to do something and give back to the community. So we started a golf outing that continues to this day. At the time, the money from the golf outing went to Lieutenant Charles Barberini's family. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Barberini was killed as a member of FDNY while responding to the Twin Towers on that day. We have since, the funds were not needed after the settlement with the City of New York, and we turned our scholarship to honor 2 students from Milltown who are graduating from high school. So we hold a scholarship contest every year, and we are happy to award our 2 scholarships for this year. The first person I want to call up did a tremendous job. She is receiving the scholarship in memory of Nicole Serace, who was a Milltown resident whose life was tragically cut short by an auto accident. But this student embodies everything that Nicole did. She is well-rounded, really smart. I'm happy to say Milltown schools and high school these kids attended did a great job. These guys have over a 4.0 and just tremendous students with really bright futures. For the Nicole Serace Memorial Scholarship, I'd like to call up Paige Datica. Thank you, Paige. The final award is in memory of Lieutenant Charles Barberini. Again, this student is highly accomplished, a great student. Again, I can't say it enough, bright future. The town should be proud to have kids like this coming out of Milltown. So with that, I'd like to call up Trent Tiglar.
Friday, I had the honor of being in Wildwood, representing the National American Legion, who also presented a scholarship to Mr. Tigger. And he is currently enrolling, I understand, for the John Vassalone Marine Corps Scholarship, and I wish him all the best. Thank you very much. Next, we have miscellaneous engineering items.
Thank you, Council President Dixon. First, the Wilson Avenue Phase 2 improvements. Storm sewer work is progressing on Wilson Avenue, and they're preparing to start the concrete curb and sidewalk work. Also, pay estimate number 1 is on the bill list tonight for Jazz Construction. For the Department of Public Works Complex, pay estimate number 11 is on the bill list tonight for Natali Construction. Also, concrete wall A has been poured, and it's about 80% backfilled. That's the one that you see from Washington Avenue along the driveway. The traffic signal structure and junction boxes have been installed, and the large reinforced concrete slab that's going to be along the rear of the property along the retaining walls has been poured, and building construction is ongoing. As we said last meeting, the 2020 municipal aid applications are available and are due July 19th. We met with your Public Works Director and Business Administrator and discussed which roads you might want to apply for. We've provided your Borough Administrator estimates tonight for Ackerman Avenue, a portion of West Foch Avenue, Hague Avenue, Matane Avenue, a portion of Garber Avenue, a portion of Portland Street, and Clayton Court. So that should help you in deciding which road you might want to apply for. The 2019 water quality report has been prepared and it's ready for printing. And lastly, the Wilson Avenue Phase 1 improvements, the closeout change order for that project is on your list tonight for LNW. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything like
No, Mr. Council President.
What is the status of the water tower? I believe that's come to an end.
Yeah, there's a petition of an executive session. There's a couple items in that session we'd like to talk about.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is comments from the audience. If any member of the public wishes to speak on the items listed on the agenda meeting, please step forward and say your name and address for the record. These comments are limited to items discussed at the agenda meeting.
The culvert on Coupon.
We have heard that it's issues with permitting, so that they're hung up. It looks like spring 2020. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for the update.
So are there any other comments?
Actually, no, my last comment, I know it's public comment, but always so.
You have a question?
Margaret brought up a good point, Mike, I don't know if we ever discussed this. Is there anything else that, in conjunction with the county's project, that we should be looking into, doing in that area for Milltown? All that's going to get ripped up for this culvert, that might behoove us to take action while the county has traffic control or anything else that they're covering?
Yeah, their project actually ties into our Oak Drive project that we did some years back. It was culvert work we did, the road reconstruction. So their work is really on the boundary between Milltown and Sprint. Obviously, when they get done paving from their limits to north to Main Street, probably not too important. Boulevard's been paved some years ago. I'm happy to say it's over very well, but at some point we need to do it. That would be the time to be after they're done.
You said again, it's okay? Okay, okay. you're going to see this nice little pamphlet that shows you all the wonderful things that happened in Milltown on the 4th of July, including a little thing about Pastor Rich, our Grand Marshal this year, and a whole bunch of pictures in here of past events and a lot of wonderful sponsors and all the things that are going on this year, a couple of special ones I'll talk about later tonight, not now. But you also see this nice little, well, also about the 5K race, but also this nice little small white envelope that came in with it. The we pay for all this is what the sponsors in town give us and what you send us in these white envelopes. So please, take a look, enjoy it, enjoy the 4th of July, help us keep it going bigger, better, and ever this year, and please send us something back in this envelope. And I'll talk to you later tonight, and thank you very much for your time.
Seeing no further comments, I'll ask the council for a motion to adjourn the agenda meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Let's have a 5-minute recess. We'll get right back.
What louder?
June 24th meeting of the Milltown Borough Council will now come to order. The clerk, please call the roll.
Council President Dixon?
Present.
Councilman Farkas?
Here.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Present.
Councilman Legati?
Here.
Councilwoman Mayer? Here. Councilman Revelinsky?
Here.
And Mayor Seymour is present by phone.
Hello. Present.
Council President, we just have a present.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the open public meeting statement?
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular business meeting of the Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution and the posting, filing, and forwarding of a copy of the same to the official Borough newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Ledger Publishing Companies on May 25th, 2019. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda scheduled matters have been completed.
Thank you. Now would please stand for a moment of silence and salute the flag of the United States.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda, we have minutes. We will address each set of minutes separately. What is the council's pleasure for the minutes of August 13th, 2018?
Move that the minutes be adopted.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. What is the council's pleasure for the minutes of September 17th, 2018?
Move that the minutes be adopted.
Seconded.
Motion been made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. What is the council's pleasure for the minutes of October 9th, 2018?
Move that the minutes be adopted.
I second.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. What is the council's pleasure for the minutes of May 13th, 2019?
Move that these minutes be adopted.
I seconded.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Mayer? Abstain. Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 4 ayes and 2 abstentions.
Thank you. council pleasure for the minutes of May 20th, 2019?
Move that these minutes be adopted.
A second.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilman Kerber? Aye. Councilman Legatti?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor? Aye. Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Moving on, we're now going to our public hearing. Next on the agenda is the public hearing, and tonight we have one item, the 2019 municipal budget. Before we begin the public hearing, CFO would like to do a presentation. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Council President. As all of you are aware, we're here for the 2019 public hearing for municipal audit, municipal budget.
Please wait. You need it.
So I have prepared a quick PowerPoint presentation highlighting different parts of the budget, highlighting different revenues, different expenses, and so forth. So when we, give me 1 second. Doesn't seem like it wants to move.
And my projector's not responding. I see Randy changing it on the screen, but the projector's not changing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Never claimed to be a computer expert. I still use my fingers counting, so. But anyway, when we started this budget, we wanted to set some goals to look at. We wanted to provide enhanced or equal services for less. That means, give the public as equal services or better, and try to keep the costs down. Exploring various shared services, mostly with towns adjacent to us, North Brunswick, East Brunswick, and the city of New Brunswick. Explore possible new revenues. I'll get into a little bit in what we've seen from the state as far as state aid, and you'll see that towns need to get new revenues on their own. The state isn't going to come and help us, folks. And keep expenses to the needs of the budget. Slim budget, that's what we're looking for. There's little control that we have over a lot of the budget. A lot of it's statutory expenses, a lot of it's debt, but we look to the departments and the department heads to keep the budgets down. This is what I was talking about, state revenues. This is our state aid, state of New Jersey. It's been the same since 14 and before that. In fact, some towns will even get decreased state aid because Milltown's in a lucky position that we still get receipts from energy taxes. Once that is converted to what they call a contract, you start decreasing state aid. So when the state says they're here to help, not in state aid. Local taxes. This is the local taxes that have been needed for the municipal budget for municipal purposes. I've outlined from 2014 down to 2019, which is included in this year's budget. Total assessed values. This does play a factor in your budget, because obviously your tax rates are based on your assessed values. As you can see from 2014, the assessed value has decreased little by little. You guys are at 50% true value. Probably when the real numbers come out in 19, probably a little less than 50% true value. When it starts getting that much of a difference between 100, the assessor has a more difficult time defending tax appeals, because then you start creating ratios that bring it up to 100%. How does one get up to 100%? That R word that nobody likes, revaluation. However, and I did notice in Middlesex County, there was one town that did a revaluation, and they're doing annual reassessments, and that's Piscataway Township. They did a revaluation, I think 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and each year they go out and assess 25% of the town and bring the town up to market value. This is something that's going to be probably in the near future, a revaluation. I'm not saying this year, next year, but to start on 2021. So the tax administrator may be reaching out to Sandy, our assessor, very shortly. Tax collection rate, as you can see, it's been pretty stable. Tax collector does a good job in getting the people to pay the taxes within the current year. These percentages are very important because these numbers drive what's called the reserve fund collected taxes that every municipality must have as an appropriation in the budget for the people that don't pay the taxes. Because the municipality is required to pay the school board 100% of the taxes, the county 100% of the taxes, library 100% of the taxes. So these collection rates are very important. The municipal budget, again, from 2014, we've gone from $8,249,000 to 2019, $10,526,000. That includes taxation and all the various revenues that we have. So the tax increase. Where does the tax increase come from? We have a total tax increase of $743,000, almost $744,000. We got a little loss of surplus of $161,500. We don't have that to put in revenue this year, so we have to make that up. We have an increase in debt payments of $467,304 over 2018. Those are obligations that the town has to pay. Statutory increases. Statutory increases are things like Social Security, pensions, public employees, police and fire. That's $73,000 increases. The remainder of the budget, basically operations of salary and wages and operational expenses, make up about $41,000 of the tax increase. It's a little pie chart showing you where, and actually the reading's a little blurry, my glasses are a little blurry, how the taxes break down. The largest section, as council members would probably anticipate, is public safety. You have a 24/7 police department, you have volunteer fire department, volunteer rescue ambulance, you have public defender, prosecutor, and a municipal court. But a large section of that pie, you see that reserve fund collected taxes? That's what's based on the collection rates. And right next to that is the capital and debt service. So those kind of make up the three larger portions. And then, and again, one of the other larger portions is your public works, which includes public buildings and grounds, garbage, streets, recycling, and so forth. So, let's get to the nitty-gritty. 2018 average assessed home is $163,400. They paid $2,076.81 in 2018. That same home assessed at the same amount will pay $2,393, or about $320, $26 increase. And that's what I have for the presentation.
Thank you. The municipal budget has been published according to law, and copies have been made available to the public prior to this meeting. Clerk, please read Resolution 19-185 by title only.
2018 municipal budget.
Now will be the public hearing for Resolution 19-185. Anyone in the audience has anything they wish to say about the ordinance, please step up to the microphone and give your name and address for the record.
Was told that they just ran out of money and they were not through their 264 smaller homes on, or fees, I guess.
Well, actually what has occurred now is it's been put into the public works hands between the business administrator and the supervisor of public works. Plus, I know the clerk was assisting with the list. They've compiled the new applications to bring the list up to what it is today. And there was about 98 trees, I believe, were taken down, and they're working it out together.
So the fact that the
Business
budget expired just happened to be that I came on one of the last days of the fiscal year?
No, what happened was last year we awarded $125,000 out of some special funds that, as you're aware, that we can't talk about, members of the public, sure we can. We were utilizing $125,000 of that. We wanted to see how far it would get us, so it got through 98 trees. We weren't going to award any more or utilize any more of those funds until we saw if it was really working in our advantage, or if we'd be better off going out for another contract. So now that that just wrapped up, we have to reevaluate, see if the money was spent most effectively in the contract form that we have. And I think this council will probably approve award of additional monies to go out again and try and get more done on the tree list. But it's not something that actually comes out of the budget for the taxes. It's from that separate pool of money.
Okay, that contradicts what Councilman Herbert
Well,
just
the
said.
business administrator can give you more information on what's going to be happening with it. What they're doing is they took the new applications that they received while it was going through, and now they've updated the list to include all those, plus what was not completed on the list. And at this point, it's being put together, and we'll reevaluate what they're going to do. And I know for a fact that Ralph has been doing a lot of in-house tree removal that he can. And he's going to, when he gets back on vacation, we'll know, going forward, the schedule for people that were on the list previously and the ones that are newly on the list. So at this point, those funds are not allocated right at this point. We still have to evaluate what came in, new applications for the old applications for the list.
I think the bottom line is there's nothing in that budget for
correct in the fact that, for one, we did have an ordinance. We have special money that's earmarked that funded that ordinance, that paid for a certain amount of work relating to trees with the wires and things of that nature. At this point, those funds have been expended, and we are reanalyzing what's still left. So when it comes time, when we go through the list and we decide how much more money we want to allocate, I believe there is a little bit of money in the budget. We're going to try to do whatever we can in-house so that we don't really need money to do that. And anything else we'll, maybe do another ordinance later on this year to fund whatever's left over.
Okay, that provides one more clarity. Thank you, everyone.
Just a quick question while we're on that topic. Can we get a list of the addresses that trees will cut?
We're working on that list right now, a complete list that shows everybody that applied, what was cut, what's still outstanding, yes, and you'll have that as soon as it's completed.
Okay, thank you.
Steve?
Like I said, we had a very tight budget this year. We didn't put in for any new projects or anything. We can certainly evaluate some of the areas in the buildings and grounds towards the end of the year to see if we by chance would have extra money available. But as you saw, due to the constraints of the tax increase, it was decided that we were going to put new projects, if you will, commit new funds to this year's budget.
Is there anyone else?
Numbers. I don't have that number.
Okay, I give you
I do not have that visual. I do not have those numbers now.
So I'm going to ask a question about the trees. So we all know that whatever money was received from PSE&G, Before your time.
Right, exactly. So what I could share with you is that what I've been told is that we do have an ongoing list. And all new applications that come in, and that's the purpose for reevaluating, you know, every tree that was out there, and I've asked for what have we taken down, you know, what still needs to be done, and then so that they can somehow be put in a priority listing, because some are wants and some are, you know, safety hazards that we have to do. So to answer your question, I can only go by the information that I've been given, and that the list is the list.
And who are you getting this information from, just curious?
From DPW director.
DPW, okay. So this has been going on 2 years now, and the list prior to
Sure.
arriving here, the list has changed, I don't know how many times, I'm not really sure. I have the list, but
Okay.
I'd like to know if that list has changed, and if trees have been added, okay, and trees that have been on there for several years are still there.
Right,
Now, whether it's a hazard or not,
right,
obviously you're gonna take care of hazardous trees first, or trees that are in the lines.
right.
But how can one check?
So we are, I've asked for the list to be updated. What I understand is it's in chronological order from whenever the applications came in,
Yep.
and that's how they're listed. So as soon as that's available, you'll be able to view it yourself if you'd like. I just don't have it right now.
Do you know how long that'll take?
I think it's just about complete. I think that was just waiting for the rest of the applications to be on.
So it's good if I just reach out to you and we can share the list?
Yes.
Okay, so we know that next month, July, there's like an annual filing that you have to do with PSE&G to let them know how much money you spent and what you've done with the money. Is there any, it's really hard to say right now how much money is left of that money?
Well, the money that we earmarked has been spent.
125.
Yeah, actually, we,
Yeah, 125 has been spent, and we had 2 prior expenditures
Right.
that were reported last year. And they'll get a report, it's June, it's either this month or next month.
Something like that.
And we'll supply that report.
Okay.
Updated.
So I attended a meeting last Thursday at the Senior Center that was run by Councilman Mayor, and Mr. Farkas was there, and Mr. Berlinski was there about utilities and the possibility of injecting some sort of phosphorus chemical into the waterworks of the town. So Mr. McCollum gave a great presentation, the water operator was there, very nicely put together. One question that I couldn't get an answer to is, this was a result of failing water samples from 2 years ago. So if we've known this has sort of been out there all this time for 2 years, do we know what that cost is? And is that in the insurance budget or not?
so I believe at that meeting, the reason that it's been dragging on as long as it has was simply because we were trying to fight it, so that we wouldn't have to do this. As far as the cost, we won't know until everything is analyzed so that we know how much chemical needs to be injected. So we do have the 2-year mark, so worst case scenario, I mean, from what we've been told, the cost should be minimal, and I'm sure that the operating budget could just absorb it. But in the event that it couldn't, if we had to wait until next year to start it, I don't think that would be out of the question. I mean, we're in almost July already, so to answer your question, if it turns out that it's more money than we have available in this year's budget, we still have time to just wait till January and start it, and have it in next year's budget.
Okay. Do we know, is it safe to ask how much is in the water utility surplus right now?
I have that information. $574,000 in the water surplus as of 12/31/18.
12/31/18.
12/31/18.
We don't know what that is as of like,
Well, no, we only measure it once a year.
you measure it once a year.
In any business, in any government entity, you measure surplus once a year. Retain earnings once a year. In this type of an entity, that's what happens. There are no interim financial reports, they're normally not done.
Would it be like a good thing to like check that like on a quarterly basis at least?
You can only measure operations once a year. What is monitored is the billings and the collections.
So when's the last time, or I should say, New Brunswick, their new water rate that goes into effect every year? What's that water rate?
2% increase over last year.
Okay.
I just had a quick question, I'm sorry. You mentioned 500 and something thousand for surplus as of 12/31. Does that include, because I know we haven't gotten our 2017 year-end numbers yet from New Brunswick.
And that's my question, like, so,
There's a provision to settle up with New Brunswick as of 12/31/17.
okay,
We have gotten the numbers from the city of New Brunswick, utility department's engineer. And
on paper.
and we have paid them up to date with our water and sewer billing. However, it seems that the utility collector over in the city of New Brunswick is not on the same page with the engineer, so. I'm still discussing that, and they're gonna need to talk to one another. I don't know why they haven't, but they're gonna need to talk to one another. I have reports from the engineer that shows us what our expenses for the sewer was at the end of 2018, and we paid up to date.
We met with them as well, going back to mid-January.
So the $531,000 surplus includes the payment to New Brunswick?
$574,000.
$574,000.
Oh, yeah, well, that's, in any entity, when you determine what your surplus is or your retained earnings, you have your assets and you make provisions for liabilities.
Correct, but
There is a provision there for settling up 2017.
I just was checking that there were no more true ups with New Brunswick.
Well, that's what we're waiting on for 17.
You know, we are, I'm thinking we're fine by what the engineer has sent us. Although when we went for 17, he only gave us 18 data. So I'm thinking that, you know, there is no true up for 17. I'm going with the question back to them, it's like, well, okay, I think you owe us money based on your numbers for 18. So start that argument with them.
So we're at least $574,000.
That's a good surplus number.
Oh, good.
So just a question, if that's from 17 and we're in 19, what seems to be the problem with New Brunswick? And why is anybody calling them on
We've met, we're waiting, as Randy indicated.
that? And do we expect a resolution of any kind, or anytime soon? Or are we going to be talking about this next June again?
We hope to have a resolution. I hope to have a resolution already. So it's a matter of getting them to agree to what I'm telling them.
Okay, thank you.
Fine, here on TV, or located at home, working every meeting, engineer.
Just, 43 Clay Street.
Erasing of the deficit towards the end of the year, we're told that it was about to be met, and now we're in June, we're trying to see if that has helped us, if that's going to continue, or if there are any other surprises coming up in the rate increase. I'm sorry,
So in other words, he's asking, we built the surplus back up that we were trying to fill with the rate rate increase is
The purpose of the rate increase was not to build up the surplus. The purpose of the rate increase was to provide a balanced budget last year. Okay, that was, if you thought the purpose of the increase was to build surplus, that was not. The $300,000 that was raised is also filtered its way through to the fund balance, and it's also a revenue item as well, because we get to pick up the balance of the rate increase in 2019 in order to provide a balanced budget. And also, of the $574,000 of surplus, we're using, what was it, $542,000 of that to balance the 19 budget. Okay, so that's not.
Or is it going to be used for us?
There's no rate increase this year.
So that rate satisfied the deficit for last year and hoping to keep it on track this year, correct?
That's correct.
Well, thank you.
From the comment just heard about the use of the surplus, it begs the question, what is that being used for?
Surplus at the end of the year is $574,000. When the administration prepares the budget for the spending side, we have to have the revenue side. So the items of revenue include water sewer rents, they're called rents, okay, cell tower revenue, some appropriation revenue that we have, and the difference obviously is coming out of fund balance. Okay, so it is a revenue source in the next subsequent year's budget.
When you said you allocated 500, you said 42,000, I was busy being shocked at the time. What is that being allocated to?
Well, we have appropriations on one side, and we have revenues on the other. It's allocated to provide a balanced budget.
So we spent it on what exactly?
It's appropriate. It's you have to have a balanced budget. So it's there to support the revenues side is there to support the appropriation the spending plan as produced by the administration.
Okay. If I could, I'm just going to ask Councilman Levelinski, because I was here when you talked and asked a few questions about the water at the time, and it was presented that that increase was to restore surplus. It absolutely was. But at the time you told us you wanted to get the surplus to something around $900,000, and it was at $300,000. Where is the money going?
It goes to multiple facets, but I think Jerry would probably be the best one to answer that because he may know the individual line items, but in essence, we had a significant amount of fund balance or surplus a few years ago, and that had been essentially gobbled up because there was a lack of rate increases, and as well as because we had expenditures within the water, sewer, and utility department. So that gobbled up the surplus. We had to then make it up because your budget's based on having X amount of surplus to kind of fill the gaps without having to jump up the tax rate tremendously. So, Jerry, can you give an indication, I think more or less what Ms. O'Donnell's looking for, is something along the lines that says, we're using this surplus to balance the budget, but is there a time at which we see the current amount of surplus not being needed, required in the budget? And if it's used in the budget, what is it being used for? Is there specific line items?
There's no specific line items that it offsets. You have 3 or 4 different categories of revenue, and you might have 15 or 20 categories of expenditures. When you add the bottom lines of each one, the revenues have to offset the expenditures / appropriations. So to pinpoint what the $500,000 being used for, you can't. It goes into one pot of revenue, and it is used to offset another pot of appropriations.
Okay. So
Okay.
maybe I'll rephrase my question. What are the appropriations? What is it being appropriated to?
Appropriations of $3,821,000. So that includes salary wages, that includes the purchase of water, that includes the disposal of sewage, that includes repairs to either sewer or water lines, includes debt payments of nearly $900,000, includes some capital outlay, and statutory expenses of $70,000. So it's a total of $3.8 million, of which the sewer rents or the sewer bills create about $3 million, so your $800,000 that you need from other sources. Part of that source is surplus. Surplus is commonly used in many budgets, not only utility budgets of water and sewer utilities, but it's used also in our current fund budget that we just discussed. So it is a source of revenue. I think to try to keep the rates stable, which we did, we used $542,000 of $574,000. So we used quite a bit of surplus, giving it back to the water rent and sewer rent people, so that their rates will not increase this year.
Okay, I have remaining concerns, but I don't quite know how to articulate them, so I'll ask this other question. You mentioned debt service and capital. Can you be any more specific, not with a number, but what it is? Is it that building across the street?
That's a portion of it. The water tower, we have New Jersey Infrastructure Trust loans that have been outstanding. There's some infrastructure projects that are older. So, all together, that makes up the debt service. It's not just one specific project. It's multiple projects.
Okay. I just want to reiterate the concerns of the person who came up and asked if there would be a water increase, because we had an explanation of our water increase being that we needed to take our surplus from $300,000 to $900,000, and I'm understanding that it's less than $50,000. So don't know how that can be addressed, but just please know that it's a concern of myself. I represent the 6th District as a committee woman. It's a concern of my district, and I know it's a concern of some of the people here. So thank you.
Let me simplify it for you. I've been saying this for 5 years. This administration has a spending problem, not a revenue problem. They have a spending problem. Let's talk about spending cuts.
I'd like to ask a similar question on the water rates. Water rates were increased for the residents last year because we had a bad winter and we had a lot of things that we had to pay for and we had to make up that money. Am I correct so far?
Water rates were increased partially, yes. The consumption was down from the prior year, which triggered lower billings. Okay.
And as far as an average resident in Milltown, basically who come to speak to me, water rates were increased because there was a surplus deficit, and we needed to recoup that. And certain residents may have been told that at a certain point in time, when we recoup that money, we'll try to get the rates down for you. I'd like you to answer that question. Will the water rates ever come down?
To be honest with you, I don't foresee that. And by the way, I don't recall, because I was at the testimony and you were sitting right there, I don't think any representation was made on the dais that the rates would come down.
Not the day you were here, it was done after.
Okay, I don't know what's on the, I don't
All right,
know.
then you can't make the statement that it was never said.
Well, no, I was at the testimony, I testified most of the time. No one on the dais said, at the hearing on the rates, that the rates would go down.
At the
No one.
meeting you were here, it was said subsequent
No,
to that.
I think.
Okay, I don't even go by what I hear.
I'm pretty sure we can pull up the YouTube.
And residents are addressing us saying, well, when are the rates going to come down? Because there was some talk about after we recoup our $900,000, or I think the number was $500,000, maybe the rates could come down for the residents. I'm asking if that's going to happen.
That rate increase was designed to balance the 2018.
I'm not asking you that, I'm asking you to say out in the public, do you foresee that rate ever
No.
coming down? Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Richard Michael, 107 First Street. I want to go back to, I think it was previous council meeting where there was increased taxes for the next taxing year due to building of the firehouse. Is that going to be just for 2019, or is this going to go indefinitely to make up the difference once the firehouse is finished? Is it kind of to pay off a loan to offset with the collected money, or in that direction?
It's a debt, a loan that we got from, I believe it was from the state,
No.
for construction of that facility. Where do we get
You're Richard, right?
Yes.
Okay. We went out and we sold bonds on the open market for 20 years. Okay, so the bonds, the first payment of the bonds was due, I believe, in May of 19, and that'll continue for 19 years thereafter. And when that's paid off, then there'll be a decrease. That'll go away, and then I'm sure other projects will creep up. And yeah, but when the building is finished, no, it won't be paid off. It was financed over a 20-year period.
Now, I think the amount that was mentioned was $500 across the board, or was it $500?
Relative strictly to that?
I believe it was phrased that the $500 was to be added on to the annual taxes to cover the cost of.
When we had the hearing on the ordinance back, I believe, in July or June of 17, there was representations made, I think calculations that within the current fund, which is where taxation is, that the increase would be, I believe it was in the $233 range on an average residential unit.
Is that across the whole town, or?
Yes,
There are some
yes.
residents that probably have some, I don't know if the veterans that they are exempt from it, or some others.
But basically, it's across the board. The barometer is the impact on an average residential unit. So somebody could be assessed at much higher, they're paying more. I think the average residential unit is in the $165,000 range, and at the time, it didn't deviate much since then, but there was an indicated impact. But what was also indicated too was that there was debt service that was in existence prior to the bond ordinance relative to the building that was going to go away, I believe, in 28. So there was relief anticipated from that burden. I believe, let's see, the 2013 issue goes away in 25. There's another 2013 issue that goes away in 27. So you get a break in 27. Okay, to be honest with you. That's just how it works. So.
If I may ask, do we know what the actual outstanding loan is
For which?
I guess everything on here.
In the current fund, in the general fund? Long-term bonds, serial bonds is $11,820,000. Temporary financing is $1,895,000. There's a small low-interest green trust loan for $149,000. That's only from the current fund, which is supported by taxation.
And the interest that we are paying on it, how high is that?
The interest rate ranges from 3% to 5%.
And we are paying everything on time. Right?
Well, actually, yes, we have to. Yeah, so it will be on the front page of the New York Times if we want. The interest rates on all of our debt range from a low of 2% to a high of 5%. The 5% coupons and bonds go away in 26, and then they drop significantly thereafter.
Kind of in layman's terms, what Jerry's trying to say, more or less, is that we bought a car a few years ago. Our loan on that is about to come up in a few years. So we'll have a few extra dollars a month to either buy another car, or fix the windows, or do something else. It's just our cars are large dollar projects like water main cleaning and lining, repavement of roads, and DPW facilities, electric substations. This facility that was flooded in the 90s and had to be relocated. So we've had our share of high dollar values, and unfortunately the cost of construction materials just keeps going up. So anything we put off further just becomes more costly to do in the future.
We just wanted to kind of get a feel for, how fast they're getting increases next year's, and
Can't say.
Or you won't say?
I can't, no, I can't. There's a lot of uncertainties that affect that. But just so you know, for the purpose of clarifying, we sold those bonds to we don't control the interest rates. The bond buyers are the ones that propose interest rates. And from there, what we tried to do in conjunction with the financial advisor was to keep the debt service relative to that bond issue on a level plateau. Okay, so, but it was all publicly bid and auctioned off and advertised in conjunction with all the proper procedures for the bond markets.
If I had any more questions, would I be able to reach out to you?
You could channel them through Jeanette, and she'll direct them to the appropriate authority for an answer.
Okay, thank you.
So you mentioned in response to his question, that was the general fund. Is there debt service coming out of the water sewer
Yep.
fund and electric as well?
Yes. There was allocated money, that bond ordinance was allocated, I believe 60% to the current fund, 25% to electric, and 15% to the water sewer fund.
So approximately what would be the amount coming out of the water sewer fund for debt service?
For what now, that building?
Just in general?
Let's see. The water sewer debt service, right now. Hold on. The water sewer debt service, annual debt service runs about $770,000 up to the end of '25, and then it drops to $577. Drops again in '29, drops again in '32, and it drops again in '36.
So the increase in the water rates in the water sewer fund was, and you said that you needed that for to take the surplus out to offset the budget. Is that the water sewer budget or the general fund budget?
Well, that was the water sewer debt service that I.
No, now I'm on to the next question. So in answer to one of the questions, you said the surplus came out to balance the budget. Is that the budget of the general fund, current fund?
Well, no, the only discussion we've had so far is on the water sewer.
So the extra is balancing the budget of just the water sewer fund?
Yes.
From the water sewer fund balance. And we have an ordinance in place that prohibits us from utilizing those funds for anything else other than water and sewer. Correct.
That's not the case for the electric.
No.
No.
How bad is our debt service? We have a bad, something happens. Can we borrow at the current rate that we're borrowing?
Sure. Well, it's not how bad it is, it's what's our borrowing capacity. Towns borrow money, and whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, they borrow money because they need to achieve projects, yes, like that was here. We have a borrowing capacity that's equivalent to 3.5% of our what's called average equalized valuations. Not the valuations that Randy had there, but they are increased to get levelized with the rest of the state. So our 3.5% borrowing capacity, our 3.5% borrowing capacity is $30 million, but it's only related to debt that's financed from the current fund / taxation. In the electric and water sewer fund, if those funds remain self-liquidating, meaning they pay for themselves, okay, and they support themselves, okay, that debt does not count towards your, what's called your statutory net debt, okay? So our statutory net debt right now is 14.99 million, 15 million, okay? So we have a borrowing capacity of $16,325,000. One of the other reasons you do rate increases is to make sure you're self-liquidating. Otherwise, that debt in that fund is not deductible, and it eats into your net debt and your ability to borrow money. And eventually, you have to address it. You can only lose money for so many years in some of those funds before they go into a fund balance deficit, which we haven't had here in many, many years.
I think they answered your question in the short term. We're at 1.6%. We have capacity of 3.5%. So we could double at that if we buy statutory regulations.
Which we don't
No,
want to do.
not saying we want to. But your question was, do we have capacity? Okay, we have basically double at that of what we have today of capacity.
It's wonderful. 3.5% is a wonderful number, and it looks like it's appealing, but you actually don't want to be there.
I agree, 100%.
You don't want to be
It's
there.
all coming on the back.
I don't want to be at 1.6.
So basically, in other words, we're at 50%.
We're at 50% of our borrowing capacity. And if you know what, it goes, as you pay down, and then you have a very aggressive pay down here. As you pay down every year, and let's just say theoretically you have an increase in your values, your ability to borrow goes up. But remember, this was a major, talking specifically about the Public Works project, it was a major project. And in any lifetime of any municipality, it's a big event, okay?
I wasn't just speaking, there's multiple debt services in this borough, not just that one project. I was speaking about the entirety.
Do we have any figures about whether the consumption has gone down as a result of the rate increase yet?
Last year, your consumption was flat. 18 was flat compared to 17. It might have deviated. I mean, it was about 1%. However, that's not enough to say that it went down or it went up. It appeared to be flat based on the consumption readings provided by the clerk in the department, the Kelly department. If you hit, by the way, just so you know, the way the rate increase was structured, you had $12,000 in excess of what we needed, which meant that the rate increase was accurate. It may not have been a happy thing, but it was accurate. We took what we needed to make the budget work.
Steve, just a quick question. I was under the assumption that the reason the rates went up last year was because of some kind of surcharge that New Brunswick hit us with at the last minute. And if that was true, then I would think that once that expense was met, why wouldn't we be able to bring the rates back down, or at least somewhat down? Because wasn't it, that's why I was under the impression that New Brunswick hit us with some kind of surcharge towards the end of the year, and that was the reason the rates went up, to pay that surcharge. That's what I thought. I was under that impression.
Yes and no. It wasn't at the end of last year. It was actually over years prior where our surplus that we had in there to balance the budget was chewed away at and chewed away at. And we were staring at the inability to fund or balance the budget with the surplus because it had been all used up. So that's what we were staring at, is a gap of $300,000 to make up in 6 months, which resulted in the rate increase.
So basically you're saying that you're just trying to replenish the surplus, that's what it was for?
Yeah, the surplus was utilized to balance the budget, so now we have to replenish the surplus, and hopefully we will get off that cycle and start to actually build up more surplus so we can utilize that for additional projects.
For some reason, I remember that at the I was under the assumption that New Brunswick all said this and ended with some kind of surcharge that we didn't have the money for.
2 years ago, we got, I believe it was 15 or 16, what we call $175,000 chargeback, slash, as the engineers call it, true up. And we have to provide for that in the next subsequent year's budget, and that's pretty heavy when it's not predictable. And that's what our issue is with 2017. We're waiting to hear on that number before we can actually close out, in reality, close out the 17 spending reserves.
I guess
You're correct.
I guess the one question that kind of throws me off a little bit is, I understand why the rates went up too, but if we get those, once that surplus is replenished, can we go back to what it was, or, I guess that's the one thing that I'm a little confused about.
It's a moving target, more or less. So the rates from New Brunswick go up, even though we might not get that true up and our rate, so you're constantly trying to adjust. If usage goes down, now we still don't have the amount of revenue that we had previously, so.
All right, I kind of understand. Okay.
I think it's important to note too that we had an agreement with the developer over at Target for some time. I believe it was a, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the exact term, but an assessment in lieu of taxes for that development in part was they were contributing about $50,000 a year, if I'm not mistaken, to our water sewer fund. That time of that contribution had expired, and unfortunately it wasn't accounted for. But we thought we would have enough money to roll over from our surplus into the budget, and it wasn't there. So that kind of helped compound things down to, we need more money.
The one thing that drives me crazy about, I don't know how the town negotiates with the water company. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know how the town negotiates with the water companies, but it seems like there should be some kind of rate that then when people try to save money and their bills go down, well, we're not generating enough money, so it seems like the water companies, well, we gotta have to jack you up. So you're trying to save money, but then you get penalized for trying to save, and that just kind of drives me crazy, because if you're agreeing on a certain rate, then regardless of whether or not we use less water or not, hey, this is the rate you charge us at. So just because we're using less doesn't mean you should be able to charge us more. I guess that's
Well,
what
we have, it's a twofold system. So one is based on the amount of consumption we have for the water we purchase, and then what the sewage we pump back to New Brunswick. So that's the big variable.
Okay.
The other is our fixed cost of operation and our debt service. So we always have to bring in X amount of dollars, and then we have the variable of how much more we're going to get, whether it's our true up or how much water we use or how much sewage we pump away to New Brunswick that we're going to get charged for. So we've got a steady target and then a fluctuation. But in the meantime, when things occur, like water main breaks, or we try to do projects.
But like I said, as consumers, I try to cut back using water and try to save money, and it seems like almost getting punished for that. No, you have to use this much water.
That's what happens when you raise the minimum. That's what happens. But I just, while we're on this, I just have a question. Are you on the finance committee?
No.
How come we're not hearing anything from anybody on the finance committee?
We heard from Councilman Lozano.
If the people on the finance committee made these decisions, I think those are the people. We shouldn't hear from you. We should hear from the people on the finance committee. They're the people who made the decisions. So please, chime in, please. I would love to hear it. I'm sure everyone else would love to hear it.
Is there any other questions?
Actually, I have a question. What was you said May 1st we made our first payment for that project across the street. What was the amount of that payment?
Well, let's see. Thinking in the current fund, out of taxation, first payment would have been $270,000.
That's what the current fund.
Yes.
How about from the other funds? Total. That's what I'm just looking for a total.
Let's see. In the water sewer fund, principal payment, $75,000 plus $85,000 of interest. And in the electric fund, $250,000, I'm sorry, $260,000 and $179,000 of interest.
How much was that interest again?
I'm sorry,
How much was the interest again on the electric?
the interest in the electric fund. Let's see, that's water. Hold on. Here we go. Electric fund, interest. Principal, $260,000, interest, $179,600. No, I take it back. I'm sorry, that's the total. I got confused. The interest on the electric portion of the building, $125,000 was principal and $141,000 was interest. So the debt service in the electric fund relative to the public works projects is $266,000. Just to clarify, the debt service in the water sewer utility relative to the project was $160,000. And in the general fund, might as well not, that was $594,000.
So that's a bit,
A piece of that was phased in the 2018 budget. Okay, the interest that was paid for the November payment of 18, that was phased in and fully phased in and on a plateau. Actually, 19 is the highest year. After that, it's on a decline.
so roughly $1 million, roughly.
Yeah, for the project, it's $1 million spread out over the 3 funds. That's true.
What was the bond ordinance? 14.7,
15.5.
15.5? And the total payout over the 20 years, 21.4 million?
Could be, yeah, I don't have that exact information here, but yeah. It's up there, including principal and interest.
Right, page 9, right?
Is there any other questions?
So that's the public part, we're gonna have our chance next, right?
Next, you can.
Close the public session.
You can close the public session.
Need a motion to close public portion.
Close the public portion, we'll move on to council.
Actually, John, do we do council comments, or do we call for a vote? Need a motion to
Yes.
close public portion.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So now we know.
The only comments that I'm going to have is based on the Finance Committee putting this budget together. That is a total farce as far as I'm concerned. I'm part of the Finance Committee. I went to 2 meetings that were wish list meetings. After that, they had meetings that I couldn't attend. I'm assuming they had meetings, I don't know. There was not one public finance meeting as far as the budget was concerned, which I am totally against moving forward. I think the public should be involved in at least 1 or 2 of the meetings for the budget. So I don't have a lot of input to say for this budget. I don't know how it was put together. I was not consulted. I declined 1 meeting because it was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which I work and I couldn't make that meeting. The other 2 meetings were at 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was able to make those. But those were strictly preliminary wish lists from departments in the borough. So I don't know how this budget was actually put together, and that would be my only comment.
Anybody else?
Yes, so, first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Barr for doing the PowerPoint presentation. That was very helpful, and it's the first time we've had that. And as I said at the last meeting, as a council person, I saw the budget was presented to me just the weekend before it went out to the public. So we had some questions regarding, how we got to certain things. But my first question was about the very first slide you had was the budget goals. Was that the Finance Committee that developed the budget goals?
Those are my goals that I put into play with the budget.
Okay. So the equal services, that's pretty much just to keep everything status quo, keep the lights on, keep all of the services that we have now. As far as the shared services go, have we made any progress on getting any new shared service to alleviate the tax burden?
I know the administrator and I have been talking about a couple different things. She's going to be taking over a role now that I was doing for, I guess, about a year. So I will definitely be working with her. Jeanette and I keep in contact pretty much on a daily basis.
And then the new revenues, where are we looking?
Well, we did, as the council know, we did change some revenues earlier this year, which will help this year's budget. We were able to anticipate, if you will, what was collected in 2018 with the anticipation that some of the increased revenues that we looked at will be something more than that in 2019. So that will certainly help our local revenues. And we need to look at the revenues and see what we can do as a local municipality to generate what is acceptable revenues. I'm not saying overcharge people or anything else. While at the same time, look at your expenditures on the other side. Are we paying on the appropriation side what we should be paying for certain services? And that's why we constantly discuss within the personnel, how can we do things for less cost, more efficiently and so forth.
Okay. So when you mentioned the reassessments coming in 2021, what would that do to the average?
I didn't say it's coming in 2021. I want to clarify. I'm thinking the tax administrator is going to be reaching out shortly to you guys. Because once you get to a 50% ratio, the tax administrator in New Jersey, because of taxation, will overseas tax administrators, get a little nervous about that ratio. If you want to break, obviously the best ratio you can have is 100%. Or if any municipalities in the state at 100%, they might be close, but you know, to earmark it exactly at 100% is very difficult.
So what would, I have no idea, what would happen to the average home tax?
Average home taxes?
Yeah.
No change.
No change, just the assessed value?
Yes, people have a very misunderstanding of revaluation. Revaluation resets the total assessed valuation of the town. Now, if that increases 50%, your taxes do not increase 50%. Your tax rate gets cut in half. So, would you see a specific increase? You may, if you didn't go up, if your property went up more than double, okay? Will somebody see a decrease? Possibly, they didn't go up quite as much. But as far as taxes, you do not receive one additional tax dollar because of a revaluation.
We had that conversation, and the way it was explained to me was, when a reevaluation happens, a third of the town goes up, a third of the town goes down, and a third of the town stays flat.
Correct.
That's,
As a typical ratio balanced, that's what it
that has
was.
nothing to do with how much taxes you pay.
No.
That's just the assessed value of it.
Correct. Now, those people that a third of you went up should be very happy. You weren't paying your fair share. But people that went down should be a little upset because they would probably pay a little more than their fair share. Now, however, as your assessor will tell you, there's always a tax appeal process you can file if you feel your assessed value is too high. And that's going through a Middlesex County Tax Board and not being heard by, if you will, the local entity.
So my next question from the slides was the budget. Since 2014, this year's budget is $2.3 million higher than it was 5 years ago. So when you say we're keeping equal services, what is the driver for making it go up $2.3 million from 5 years ago, but we're basically getting all the same services that we have been for the last 5 years?
Well, there's several things. Obviously, contractual agreements, union contracts that will drive up, depending on the salary increases from 14. I can't tell you what happened between 14 and 18. You know, obviously, this from last year, the debt service increased, and probably, I should take a look at that to see where it increased from 2014 to 2019. You had statutory increases without a doubt, as all of you know, with pensions in the state of New Jersey. That goes up, okay? You had, just your normal increases. I'm sure garbage has increased, garbage collections has increased, recycling has increased, and quite honestly, the big unknown next year, I'll tell you right now, is recycling. Because there's no market for recycling, but we have a mandatory law for recycling. So that's going to be a very interesting battle in the next couple of years. Of how do you get rid of the recyclables that nobody wants?
Is there any debt services that have come off from 14 to 19? And are there any debt services that are going to be coming off anytime soon?
In the current fund, I think the next debt service will come off in 2025, I want to say.
Let's see, the 2013 bond issue goes away in '25. There was a 2013 refunding issue that goes away in '27. So you're on a plateau. Plateau until 25 and 27.
So what that means is basically your debt service will be pretty steady. So there won't be a large variation in tax impact until 2020.
One point I was getting to, I think within the last 5 years, we've gone up, you don't mind me looking at your numbers, $2.3 million, but didn't the debt service for this building come off in that time period? Shouldn't that have brought it down a little
I
bit?
believe that came off in 14, and the bonds were sold in '93 for 20 years, so yeah, they dropped off.
So that might have been the same year that I started with the analysis. So.
Okay.
I have a question. The total budget we're looking at here is how much? 10 million? And the municipal budget portion is how much?
The budget is
3.4.
10.7 million. The municipal portion is 10.4.
10.4 for the municipal.
The library is 304,000.
Library, 4,000. And a total of 10. What's the county?
I don't know.
Well, it's just, we seem to be focusing on how much we've gone up here since 2014, $2.4 million. I'm just wondering what else contributed to that. Because out of 10 million, it looks like, and I don't want anyone to misconstrue this, but $7.7 million to the schools. So while we sit here and squabble over things that we're doing in this town, raising taxes in order to improve our roads, improve our water system, and everything else, the services that the borough provides, the fact remains that the majority of your tax dollars do go to the school system. And we have an excellent, excellent school system. My kid's in it, believe me. I'm overly impressed with their abilities and what they do for our children. And it's one of the reasons why Milltown is so desired. But we need to be cognizant of the fact that the majority of the tax dollars go directly to the schools. So I hope that everyone who's in this room, fervently looking through the budget and analyzing what we can save, what we shouldn't spend on, whether it's an addition here or a new building there, goes to the school board with the same sort of commitment. Because quite frankly, we've had additions to Parkview School, additions to Joyce Kilmer School, and look, my parents paid for it so that my kids can have a better school system. We're paying for it now so that my kids' kids will have a better school system and a better town to grow up in. It's all part of the game. We always pay it ahead. It stinks, but for years we haven't spent enough on improving things in this town. And unfortunately, the time has come to suck it up and spend some money on improvements. We've moved this building out of a flood zone after it was flooded. It cost us more money for less space because the town rejected building this building the first go-around. We're moving the DPW facility. Had we kept the electrical substation where it is now, people would have given us money, but we moved it up a hill. Expenses, unavoidable expenses. And we need to make sure that we take care of some of these really big dollar items. And the next one, I guarantee, is going to be the force main going out to New Brunswick for around $10 million before we're able to do a lot of what the other towns do. The other towns pave roads every year. They do water mains, drainage, curbs, sidewalks, park improvements, all wonderful things. But our revenue is fixed. We don't have a lot of big stores. We don't have anyone else to go for taxation other than our residents. So it's unfortunate because, hey, everyone up here, including myself, is a paying tax member of this community. And it's our commitment to our community which keeps us here, and it's knowing that dollars are being spent properly to improve the services we provide to the residents of this community is why we stay. So with that, I just I wanted to say my piece. We seem to be getting lost in numbers here, but we all have
Well,
the opportunity, excuse me, we all have the opportunity to make a decision here and move forward with improving this town. If we're not going to do it, then perhaps being up here is not the appropriate place for some people. And that's it.
So I think I was actually asking a question because we are charged as the governing body, the council of the Borough of Milltown, to deal with the municipal budget, the portion that we can control. Obviously, we can go to the Board of Ed and question them. However, the questions that we have is for that small portion that we have. And to your point, for all of the things that we have to do and need to do, yet will not have the resources to do them. So that was the question of, can we conserve in certain spots? How are we going to go forward? When we have a giant force main break, how will we be able to afford that? So that was the question, and actually that brings up a question for the Finance Committee, because I know that you met with each department head, and I was wondering what feedback you got, if any, regarding the water and electric fund, and what was needed for that budget.
Well, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Barr, you met with those individuals, and you had reported back to the Finance Committee that there was really no change.
So
Going forward, and they know what they had to maintain.
So is it my understanding then that the Finance Committee doesn't meet with the department heads? Because I know
We met with the department heads as was recommended to us.
so that you didn't meet with the...
Departments that there were problems. There's some departments that don't need an increase in salary.
And
That's what we're here to negotiate, the increase or the decrease.
The utility department has been asking for, begging for, pleading for additional personnel. So are you saying that it's your judgment that they have no
What I'm
problem?
saying
they don't
is
need to
that
meet
was
with that
addressed.
head?
That was addressed.
Was he
So-
in and met with the Finance Committee?
Mr. Barr?
The Finance Committee. Did Mr. Eckert meet with the Finance Committee this year to go over his budget?
No, we did not.
So a very important department of the Borough of Milltown did not have their department head meet with the Finance Committee to go over the budget and what was needed for the coming year's budget.
I mean, to be fair, I also did receive a budget request from her.
So if that were me, and it was a pretty important department, I would say, get in here with your numbers and let's see what we have to address for the coming year. I'm wondering why that wasn't done.
Explain it now?
Sure.
Thank you. Met with Mr. Barr, who told me he had met with both, as you said, the head of both departments, who said there was no need to sit down, that there was a personnel issue, and we were speaking of, and we did speak about the personnel issues on the Finance Committee, on several meetings. The personnel issues did come up, and we did speak about that. As far as meeting with him directly on his finances, he sat down with Mr. Barr, who was well more versed than any of us as to what was there, what was coming in, and what the whole projection of it was.
I was not part of any meetings with the Finance Committee that, what Council President Dixon just said, I was not part of any of those meetings, nor do I think that they even occurred. They may have occurred, Council President Dixon and Randy Barr, one-on-one, the chair of the Finance Committee might have met with the CFO, but the Finance Committee did not participate in that particular meeting.
So the question becomes, why even have a Finance Committee? I mean, I understand that Mr. Barr and Mr. Stankiewicz do their job, but do we, as the governing body, have any input whatsoever as to where the resources are allocated? Or how, whether there's, I mean, so when you had the discussion, did you decide to approve an extra person?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Jerry or Brandon, but 80% of the budget is already debt service, what's going on, and the other 20% is, like you said, contract negotiation, maintaining, doing everything else. So 80% of it is done already. The average person does not understand that. You don't go into the budget meeting any of the meetings, going in and cutting 100 things out of a department to save $10 when you don't understand the workings of that department. You meet with the department heads, you do speak with them. I've met with John Eckert this year alone. I haven't met with him 100 times. I haven't met with him once. We've sat down, we've talked on several occasions, and everything seems to be just fine. Again, he did complain about personnel. I'll be the first one to say that. And I told him, I think Mr. Borough also referred that we'll do what we can for that. And I think we did solve that one. We did great.
So in the budget, according to the department head of utilities, there are going to be, it's mandated that all of the hydrants be open. And in that, there will be several valves that need to be replaced. Is that reflected in the water sewer budget?
It is reflected in the budget plan, yes.
Okay, good.
You know, yeah, that's one, actually, that's one thing to mention. This is a budget plan.
Correct.
You know, as we all know, even with our own household budget plans, things can change throughout the year. Yes, it's included in the budget plan, but if we have a major break somewhere else, you know, we then need to allocate funds and so forth. Do we think we have a good budget for the water and sewer to get through our expenses for this year? Yes. Okay. As far as personnel, we did not increase the personnel in the water sewer. The same personnel is not at full staff, but the same personnel is funded. So we need to address that after we adopt the budget.
Correct. And that's where, you know, to Councilman Revelinsky's point, when you talk about your household budget, yeah, same thing. The majority is fixed mortgage or car payment. But if you had some extra resources, it's sort of up to you to decide, I can either go and go to Atlantic City today, or I can save a little bit to work on my roof that I have to do next year, to send my kid to college in 5 years, you know. So it's not a year in, year out, let's just, you know, spend like crazy and then we'll just worry about what's going to happen next year. And that's where I would hope that when we have an increase year over year over year, or, you know, it's 300 more this year for the actual taxpayer than last year, where is the infrastructure that we're planning for? I mean, I don't see that that's in this budget. We're just keeping afloat. We're not putting projects into place that might need to be done in a year or 2 or 3 years, because we're taking money out of the surplus rather than leaving some there to address issues that could arise this year, probably will, that we just can't foresee.
I think, and you bring up fantastic points, and I think you're right on target with what the administrator and I have been talking about. You have some newer staff here that come with different viewpoints for planning, not only capital, but planning budgets and so forth. And I think over the next several months, we will be doing that and getting department heads more involved with what their budgets are, what they're spending, how they're spending it, what their needs are for the future, and not just this year. We need to plan out a 6-year capital budget that means something. Okay, many towns do a 6-year budget, that the capital budget that will throw numbers in there and just to meet the state standards. But I think, you know, I worked with some towns that we created budget formats that if we wanted to adjust this, what happens to the taxes, what happens to the sewer rates and so forth. And I think we're going to be on target to be doing that kind of work and getting the department heads more involved and more understanding of the budget process and so forth.
No, and that's much appreciated. I mean, that seems like what we need, because the budget, as I look at it right now, has reflected the years of not doing that. And really, you know, my concern as the elected representative of the people is, what are the people getting for this increase?
There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be done, a lot of capital.
Right, but right now, we're not addressing it.
Well,
capital item, the infrastructure, it's hard, it's impossible at any time to budget infrastructure in the annual budget. It has to be in the long-range budget. You have to go to debt financing. You don't really have a choice. Anything you do in a town is expensive, okay? So to put individual line items as infrastructure improvements, you can't afford it. You have to go to finance.
I understand that, but however, you know, Jerry, that you were here last year when we blamed a lot of the rate, 30% rate increase on all the water main breaks that we had. So my point is, if we had had a little more in the water sewer fund balance, we wouldn't have had to say, oh, you know, we had 3 big water main breaks, let's go back to the public. Because every time that we don't do our due diligence up here, it's not just the 6 of us that pay, it's every single person in Milltown that pays. I mean, you can spend, we can go out and bond and take on debt and more debt and more debt. And it's all of these people sitting here and all the people at home that are going to wind up paying for it.
And if you can manage your long-term budgets, that does include debt. You can manage your budgets and the debt with the least amount of impact to taxes.
Right. Or debt that's taken on that will really impact the majority of the people. If they have serious issues with their water or their sewer line or whatever, take on the projects that we know are needed, and it's something that only we as the town can address.
But how can you do that when spending is out of control? That's my question. Simplify the whole thing. Spending in this town is out of control. By my numbers, spending went up $780,000 from last year to this year. A lot of that's debt service, but $780,000 in increased spending. So you can't talk about long-term projects, you can't talk about infrastructure, you can't talk about a force main when you're spending every cent these people in the town make. You cannot do that. It is not sustainable.
But that's part of a budgetary forecast. And if you recall, I said, you know, we're going to look at new revenues, but that doesn't eliminate the appropriation side. How do you get things done better or at less cost? And that needs to be looked at. And it should be looked at every municipality. You're spending public dollars, and it should be the first thing that people look at. And I strongly believe that in educating the department heads that you have on staff here of not only how their job affects budgets and so forth, and educate them, I think that will be a great resource to a team effort to come up with years of planning for financial purposes.
Hopefully with input from the public, where, to Nick's point, a public finance committee meeting would be helpful to open up and here's what we're thinking, here's what we're looking at, and then get feedback from the public on that as well.
Any other questions or statements?
Well, I just want to say, in terms of our town, many other towns throughout the state and throughout the nation charge for everything. You don't get the bulk pickup, you don't get the tire pickup, you don't get electronics. There is a cost for all that, just right outside of Milltown. We don't charge for meter parking because nobody wants that. That's how they get in revenue to do other things for the town. Be it the pedestrian signs, extra painting for complete streets, for safety, whatever it may be, additional lighting, or anything to revitalize the town. That's why you see Highland Park and Metuchen, Hightstown, all these other towns have, I know they have much more rateables, but also they have other fees that are instituted, and everybody pays regardless. It's you're going to put out a refrigerator, and it's $25, $50 up in some towns. And sometimes you put, like in Woodbridge, once a year they have a big town-wide yard sale, and that's when you put everything out, no cost. Other than that, you get a fee. There's fee for everything. They raise fees to state fees. We don't have everything state fees. We take forever to raise rates for anything in this town because nobody wants the rates increased. Yet the chemicals for the pools increase, all your services increase, snacks for camp, snack programs, anything, paper, every year, or supplies, maybe a little bit, but we don't charge extra for certain things. Other towns do. I've lived out of state for a short time. You get a fee for everything. You get your lawnmowers, you got to put out, anything big and bulky. And there's other things that they, like I said, meters, parking. Some only do it Monday through Saturday, some do it Monday through Friday. That's revenue for the town. To do something more to make the town more revitalized. We haven't done that. I don't know if we ever will. Now, we have an opportunity with the electrical vehicle charging stations. If we get a couple in, charge it. They're doing it at the mall. They're making a bundle. They're constantly being used at Bar Louie. This is an opportunity because we have our own electric. And look at the consumption, South Main Street. No one's in those buildings, just the minimum consumption charges. That's it, that's what's paid. And, you know, if unoccupied, it's just the minimum. There's no consumption. So whatever the foreclosures or whatever is vacant, or some people want to live here part-time, you know, that takes into consideration too. So this all takes into play. It's not just what we're trying to overspend. The Public Works building, I can't wait to see the master plan, the flood mitigation for the county. It's going to change. They know we're doing this building, and right now it says what FEMA says. It says the same thing as the state did from 1970s. Milltown needs to move the Public Works and the utilities out of the flood area. Maybe with this new move, we're going to see more awarded grants. We don't know until we apply, but that's a possibility because we finally did what they asked to do 40 years ago. And it's in the county plan that we have moved it. You can look it up online. They're excited about it. I've spoken to county and state officials and they're just like, wow, it's about time. People lived here for many years. I go to a lot of workshops, you know, municipal workshops, green infrastructure workshops, anything. I just talk to everybody. And they're actually thrilled that we finally did this. And I'm proud. I'm proud to have voted for it. It's something that's been needed. South Main Street is falling apart. Every time you turn around, you throw more money in it, and more money in it. I mean, it's just not worth it.
Maybe they're thrilled because they're not paying for it, but we're paying for it.
But for 40 years, the state, federal, and county government said, get out of the floodplain.
And we got the electric out of the floodplain 5 years ago.
And then we can get the buildings out.
With no money from FEMA on that one. So if I can take a moment here, one of the things that no one else has commented on here, and yes, we have some vacant homes in town, some vacant businesses, but there is a real large piece of land that's been vacant in this town that hasn't paid taxes in years. Over $2 million is owed to the Borough of Milltown for taxes, back taxes, on Ford Avenue. And that property alone, the borough is still responsible for the assessed property value and taxes associated with that property to get paid out to the school, to get paid out to the county, to get paid out to the library, and every other entity. But yet we don't have the money coming in. So people, we have to keep that in mind. When we built the electric substation, there's conditions there to be able to provide electrical service for Ford Avenue. And we are close as we proceed with the Ford Avenue Redevelopment Agency and getting things finally moving forward over there, but it hasn't happened. And that is a big thorn in the side of the people of Milltown because it's money we don't have. It's money that we're not getting in every month in the form of taxes to do improvements. So unfortunately, we have to swallow it. We have to do the projects that we need to do to get things done, to save money, to keep the town functioning, and then we can get back to routine. The regular road paving. When I was a kid here, we did road paving, we did sidewalks, curbs, streets, we did water mains, sewer mains, regularly. Once a year, you'd see another neighborhood getting some action done. And we can't do it, because who wants to spend money on paving a road when you know that the pipes below haven't been done? And are going to probably break, because as we proceed down the line, things just get older and older. So we've got decisions to make, we've got choices to make, and we need to choose to move forward. We've already chosen last year as a council to develop across the street a property that was purchased years prior for the electric substation. We're utilizing it for a DPW and fire facility, killing two birds with one stone. One that's in disrepair and another that's in a floodplain. It's about time that we all got on the same page here and said, let's focus on the next thing that we can take on. Let's listen to Mr. Stankwitz and Mr. Barr over here and find out when our debt service is dropping off and about how much money we can get for a loan and plan accordingly for the next improvement in this town so we can keep providing for our, just to spend it. Randy, if you don't spend money, nothing happens. You guys want to talk about improving the town, but then you don't want to spend a dime. You don't want to ask the taxpayers for a penny. And it aggravates the hell out of me every time I'm speaking. It aggravates the hell out of me every time you want to get up on your high horse and talk about not raising money and how come you're not providing anything. What is it? Groundwater and higher rates. That's the Republican agenda. Get it through your head. You gotta spend some money to fix things around here. No, Randy, you don't know.
Councilman Kerber, you're running your campaigns for tonight. That's great.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing.
That's wonderful.
Okay.
Stop the spending and we won't have the problems. That's the issue.
If you don't spend,
Ask
the
the
problems
professionals.
will be there. Go ahead, ask the professionals.
Ask them.
Okay. If we don't spend money, will the problems go away?
Listen, Council President's not gonna do it. Do I have to put the both of you in timeout? Let's finish this meeting.
Yeah.
Let's
That
go.
will argue later.
So,
Please.
the
So it's
question-
all roll.
But the question wasn't about spending, it's what, and to Councilman Kruger's point, it's what you can do for the majority of residents. So if a few residents want to put a refrigerator out, why does everybody have to pay for that? Why can't they pay the fee? Did you discuss that in the Finance Committee? Why do I have to pay because somebody wants to put a refrigerator out?
Because that's the way it's always been in this town.
Let
Let me finish. It's the way it's been in this town. Talk to the people in this town that elected you. Talk to the people that work here in this town, how the people approach them, and when that's not done, what's gonna happen. That's what the problem is.
Okay.
Am I for paying for it? Yes. I have homes in other locations in the state of New Jersey, and I pay for it, except for here. And then I've seen people in this town that are building dream homes in Vermont, coming back on Saturday afternoons with trailers loaded with garbage, and they dump it on their front lawn, and expect us to pick it up because we don't charge them. That's been brought to everybody's attention, and it's going on. But that's what the people in this town, everybody takes advantage of.
So
I agree, let's charge them. You want to do that, bring it up, let's do it.
So it's, we could say,
Please,
people,
put your
would
name
you
on it.
prefer
Write it
your
up.
taxes to go up $300, or would you prefer to have a $25 fee for when you put your refrigerator?
Write it up, I'll vote for it.
Right? I mean, things like that are things that I would assume have been discussed in the Finance Committee. Just because things are done that way forever, my point,
The finance committee does not run every department in this building.
Call the roll, huh?
excuse
Yeah, exactly.
another,
Thank you, Mayor.
another country heard from, what is the best for the majority of the residents of Milltown? That's all. What is it, and I mean,
Councilman Legati, I'll go back to what you said, let's call the roll. Let's go on.
think about the poor senior citizens who are on a
Not arguing
fixed
about
income. Do they have to pay for somebody that has a second home to dump all their garbage here? Or
I've seen it.
or because
I've
we
seen
can't manage our finances correctly?
I think, no other comments, proper call for a roll now for budget, or call for a vote on the budget.
You need a motion first. Nobody's moved to adopt the budget.
I'm sorry.
There's been no motion to adopt the budget, so we would need a motion in a
I need a
second.
motion to adopt.
I move we adopt the budget.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to adopt the budget, please have a roll call.
Council President Nixon?
Aye.
Council President Nixon? Councilman Farkas?
No.
Councilman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
No.
Councilman Mayor?
No.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 3 ayes and 3 noes. Mr. Brewer, is it appropriate for the mayor to break the tie?
By statute, it is appropriate.
Mayor Stever?
Mayor, you still there? Did we lose you?
Oh, no, I'm absolutely here. This has really been something. Well, first off, before I vote, I'd like to apologize to everybody in town for not being there. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with some very serious family situation out of state, and that is why I'm not there. When I do return at the next meeting, I will certainly, at length, give my reasoning for my vote. But to cut this all off and move on the line, I will
Council President, that means we have 4 ayes and 3 noes.
Therefore, the budget's been passed. Moving on. Next, we have comments from the audience on resolutions. If any member of the public wishes to speak on any of the resolutions, please step forward and say your name and address on the record. These comments are limited to resolutions listed on the agenda. Saying no.
There's one. Sorry.
Nope.
Over.
We lost.
We don't need any more.
Thought that thing was gonna fly.
Yes, Council President, we do have a comment from the crowd.
I believe there are comments from the audience.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'll be
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize.
That's okay. Good evening, Dawn Gilbert, West Avenue. I just wanted to comment on the comments of Councilman Revelinsky about school tax. I have just recently finished.
Excuse me, I have to interrupt you.
Yes.
This is on the resolutions only.
I'm sorry.
Okay?
We're not
That would
supposed
be
to-
right off the audience comments if
It's-
it's coming.
Oh, even if it's not, even if it's related to what you're voting on the budget, I thought that was time.
Why don't we just vote on
Sorry
it?
about that. Excuse me on
Okay,
that.
no problem. I'm sorry.
Kind of updates.
I probably did not make myself clear.
That's okay.
Is there any other comments from the audience on the upcoming resolutions? Okay. Move on to the bill list. We now move to the bills and claims. Clerk, please read the bill resolution 19-159.
Authorizing the payment of bills, claims, and statements against the Borough of Milltown, the total amount of $6,400,032,847.74.
You've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Call the roll, please.
Council President Dixon,
Aye.
Councilman Farkas,
Aye.
Councilman Kerber,
Aye.
Councilman Legati,
Aye.
Councilman Mayor,
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky.
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
So moved. This resolution is adopted. Next, we have reports of standing committees and introduction of resolution. Consent resolution has been prepared to cover the resolutions listed on the agenda. If any member of the council wants any resolution acted upon individually, please give me the resolution number and it will be pulled from the consent resolution.
Council President, 19177.
Council President, 19161.
161.
Yes, sir.
And I would also like to pull resolution 19181. Is there any other?
Go ahead.
19179, please.
179. Will the clerk please read the consent resolution which covers the resolutions listed on the agenda with the exception of 19161, 19177, 19179, and 19181.
Whereas pursuant to the rules of council may establish a consent agenda for a regular or special meeting, and whereas the Borough Clerk has posted a consent agenda for this meeting, now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown County, Middlesex State of New Jersey, that the consent agenda previously prepared by the Borough Clerk be approved without the necessity of having the individual resolutions read by the Borough Clerk.
You've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Council President Dixon,
Aye.
Councilman Farkas,
Aye.
Councilman Kerber,
Aye.
Councilman Legati,
Aye.
Councilman Mayor,
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky.
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Clerk, please read resolution 19161 by title.
Self-examination of budget resolution 2019 municipal budget.
Okay.
be adopted.
I second.
Motion been made. Any questions on the motion?
Yes, Council President, just for the people in the audience, self-examination of the budget resolution 2019 municipal budget. And it is all about the numbers. Just so everybody understands, and if I'm correct, this is to make sure that it is meets all the requirements for a municipal budget. Am I correct in that self-examination?
Self-exam, you're allowed to self-exam, well, they give you self-exams 2 out of 3 years, okay? That puts the burden on the certified municipal finance officer to make sure that it meets all the statutory requirements, not necessarily agreeing with the numbers, but does meet cap numbers of tax appropriations, the grants that are in the budget and so forth. So there are forms that the CFO has to sign off on in conjunction with some ordinances that may need to be given to support the budget adoption.
And you as the CFO are?
I'll be doing that.
Yes. And you have no issue with our budget that we approved tonight?
Not statutorily, no.
That was it. Thank you, sir.
Any other comments, questions? If not, call the roll, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor? Aye. Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
The next resolution, ask the clerk, please read 19177.
Resolution granting application for club license renewal for Joyce Town Post 25, doing business as American Legion, license number 12-12-31007-001 for 2019-2020 license term.
Your motion?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any questions?
Would Councilman Dixon like to recuse himself from a vote on this one?
Yes, I would. And if I may, and I don't know if this is okay to do this, I will recuse myself from this vote, but the next one also is for the exact same reason.
So just recuse yourself from both, and it wouldn't just be the vote, but also be in deliberations on the subject.
Right, that would be 19188. Yeah, 181. I have to also recuse myself.
He didn't, Pat, he voted on them already.
No, not 181, I had that.
I think they
Oh, you got it voted. I had that,
Yeah.
both of those I had. Okay, so, I'm recusing myself. So
Is there any other?
a vote? Would we vote on
You just have to say abstain,
19177?
right?
It just says,
Council President Dixon?
Recuse.
Councilman
Same as
Farkas?
abstain?
Yes. Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor? Aye. Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, that's 5 ayes and 1 abstention. Recusal.
Will the clerk please read 19179?
Resolution granting application for culinary retail consumption license renewal for Dynasty LLC, doing business as Dynasty LLC, license number 12-12-33005-003 for 2019-2020 license term.
What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any questions?
Yes, this is the pocket license, correct?
This is one of 2 private licenses, yes.
Okay. Have they been approved by the agency?
Their approvals from ABC come after we do the resolution, but if you're talking about their special ruling, they were granted their special ruling for 2 years in September, I believe it is. It's in the resolution. So they had to reapply for their special ruling last year, and that lasts for 2 years. So they were granted it in September, so it goes to this last licensing year, 2018-2019, and for 2019-2020.
Do you know how long this goes on? Because they've had this pocket license for many years. And how much longer does it go on before somebody says,
It would be a court decision whether or not, when they go for the special ruling, if they feel that it's exceeded the time. That's why it has to be reevaluated every 2 years by the special ruling.
do By any chance, do you know how many years it's been populated?
Since I've been here for sure, that's at least 6.
I don't even know.
Or 3, sorry.
It's been a long time.
3.
I'm gonna
Three
say
special
that.
buildings.
So it's a pocket license, but they're not using it, and they haven't used it for years.
Correct. We have 2 pocket licenses in the borough.
I remember inquiring about this last year, and John, Mr. Brewer, I think you said something along the lines of they have a license, we basically don't really have a choice in this. If I'm not mistaken, it's up to the ABC to determine whether or not they can keep it.
That's what the clerk is referring to. It's a 2-year cycle, and the ABC reviews that, and then determines whether to give the approval for the pocket license, and it happens every 2 years. So if it happened in 2018, if we were referring to 2018, I think in the meantime, we can certainly look into whether the municipality can voice any objection before the ABC when it comes up to pocket license, by the ABC.
Thank you.
Call for the vote, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilman McCurver?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, that's 6 ayes.
And I believe the last resolution I was told was 19-181, and we spoke about that, and I also repeated myself from that. So we can read that, and I think we still have to vote on it individually because it was pulled.
Resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown amending the electric rate charge to veterans organizations in compliance with special provisions established by NJSA 48:2-21.45.
Is there any question? Being none, call for the roll.
I move that the resolution be adopted first.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Now we'll have a roll.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
No.
Oh, I recused myself. Fell asleep.
I heard abstain. Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilman McCurver?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 5 ayes and 1 abstention.
Thank you. Moving on, council reports. First off, the Department of Finance and Administration and Planning, it's chaired by myself, and I think we've had enough discussion on that this evening. Start with the board or something.
I just want to add something, since you see in the audience, I just want to congratulate the tax assessor for her reappointment. Welcome.
Anything else, Mr. Winter? Jeanette, anything?
I have none.
Thank you. Moving on, Department of Public Safety, chaired by Nicholas Legati.
Thank you, Council President. The Milltown Police Department monthly report between April 30th, 2019 and June 18, 2019, police have received and answered 2,623 calls for service. Police conducted a total of 742 motor vehicle stops, which include traffic and drunk driver call details. 170 radar details were conducted in various locations during this time period. Police responded to 37 motor vehicle accidents and made 12 arrests, which include shoplifting, drugs, DWI, domestic violence, assaults, theft, and warrant arrests. Milltown Police participated in Click It or Ticket, where multiple summonses were issued for cell phones and distracted drivers. Milltown Police Community Affairs Unit partnered with Keep Middlesex Moving in participation of Bike to School. Dozens of children and parents joined our bike unit in riding to school. Patrolman DeFalco received a commendation award from Mothers Against Drunk Driving for his multiple DWI arrests. Milltown Police participated in the 2019 Special Olympics Torch Run, which raised money for the New Jersey Special Olympics. The Milltown Police Department continues to maintain all required training and continues to maintain high accreditation standards of best police practices. Police encourage residents to remain vigilant and reports suspicious activity and traffic concerns to 732-828-1100 or www.milltownnj.org. School is out, so please drive safely. Chief Brian Cannell. I don't have any other reports, but just in case you're in the audience, I also liaison to the fire department, and I have 3 very good-looking fire chiefs in the audience tonight, and I'd like to thank them for their presentation today, for their scholarships. Actually, I missed you, young man. I have 4 chiefs, very nicely dressed, and I'd like to thank them for their presentations tonight. It was a great thing you guys did. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. Next, we'll start with Utilities, directed by Councilwoman Trina.
Thank you, Council President. So I wanted to give a quick synopsis report of our utility committee meeting. We had a committee meeting last Thursday at the Senior Center. We opened it up to the public for some question and answer and input. And the main driver to do that was making an announcement regarding our water. The backstory is that in 2014, and actually we have our engineer, so please feel free to chime in and correct me, because he's been involved in this a lot longer than I have. But in 2014 and 2017, Milltown did not pass their lead sample tests. We have passed since then. We have been, as was stated a little bit earlier, working for the past year and a half or so to remediate. We could not originally force any homeowner to replace their lead service. There could be various lead services or lead solders and lead joints in the house. But once the state allowed for the borough to replace lead service, we came up with a plan to try and address that and maybe get low-cost loans for the homeowners. And so Mr. McClellan had been working on that for quite some time. In April, late April, early May, we went down to Trenton to meet with the DEP. All of the CME engineers, our water operator, our utility department head, and I went down to appeal that this is the remedy that we were going to progress with. However, after Mr. McClellan went through the whole pitch, they said because we had failed twice, the EPA mandates that we add orthophosphate to the water, which is a corrosion inhibitor. So that is required to be done within the next year because we have 3 years from the last failure. And so we wanted to let people know. Mr. Mitchell did a really nice PowerPoint presentation all about orthophosphate, what we have going on. And so that was the majority of the meeting, the questions, answers. We also had questions about water quality, some of the rust in the water, which we did tell them that the corrosion inhibitor can actually help with some of the rust or ground water issues. We had people that had some complaints about a chlorine smell, all of which we answered to there. So, I mean, that was the basic crux of the meeting. We will have more information. I'll post on the website so everybody knows what happened. And if we have more questions, concerns, we will certainly open up another public meeting in the future. Anything to add on that, Mike?
One of the Councilwoman Mayor is I think that at some point we believe the mayor and council are going to give us direction to proceed with preparing the necessary applications to DEP to receive approval from the DEP for the injection of corrosion inhibitor. The requirements, as we stated at the meeting, were that since the state refused our appeal, that our next step is to begin the process. The application is not significantly prepared, but it is something that is really the next step. It's an application to DEP, which basically indicates the type of corrosion inhibitor we would propose. That's based upon some testing that's done, usually with a vendor, and there's usually a pilot period where you pilot this vendor or this material. I would say that that's the next step for the mayor council to proceed to. There really is a deadline. We have about a year, as Councilman Mayor indicated earlier. We'd suggest that we move quickly. The DEP has been pressing us through not only the section that we deal with, also the enforcement. So I would say that's the next step.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, the Department of Public Works and Recycling, chaired by Councilman Doreen Kerr.
Thank you, Council President Dixon. Along with all curbside collections, DPW has the following report. Road repairs have taken place at the following locations: Howard Street, Chestnut, Columbia, and the intersection of George Street and West Lincoln Avenue. Street sweeping is ongoing. They had an issue, so they were going to be getting it repaired, or it has been repaired. Had some complaints from residents, so they did check into it. Outflow pipe cleaning and maintenance has taken place to comply with the stormwater regulations. Work has taken place at the Borough Pool to prepare for the opening of the season. Along with the trees being removed by our vendor, the DPW employees have taken down trees as manpower permits. Sign repair has taken place throughout the town. Public Works assisted the utilities department with a water main break at Chestnut Street by providing laborers, a driver, and an operator. Modifications have taken place in one of the senior vans. The seating arrangement has been changed to better accommodate the seniors' needs. And myself and business administrator went to the meeting to speak with them, and we brought that to their attention, and they're happy that changes have been made. DPW has been busy preparing the town and Borough Park for the upcoming 4th of July celebration. Reminder, I've seen it's gotten worse, not better. Plastic bags cannot be in your recycling bins. This is going to really be pushed hard from the county, and we're going to start getting fined for it. So I just want to be aware it's coming. I'm not sure what month, but it will be coming. So please, no plastic bags in your recyclings. Take them to the Kohl's, take them to the supermarkets, drop them in, use them for garbage, whatever you're going to do with them. But keep your plastic bags out of the recycling bins. Toys don't belong in there. You know, it's number 1 or number 2 plastics, that's it. On July 4th, it's Thursday, so we're not going to have the garbage pickup. That will take place on Friday, July 5th. Thursday, July 4th, recycling will take place on Saturday, July 6th. Please do not put out until Friday night. Thank you. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, the Department of Environmental Health and Social Services, chaired by Councilman Randy Clark.
Thank you. The Environmental Commission will hold its next meeting this Wednesday, June 26th at 7:30 in Borough Hall. And that's it for me.
And lastly, the Department of Recreation, chaired by Councilman Richard Burley.
Thank you, Council President. To recap first, before I get into the standard report, I'd like to announce that the budget tonight did include an additional hours or salary for someone to become a full-time member of our recreation department in the office. Again, increasing our way to providing services for the residents of the town. It also includes approximately $10,000 for electronic services so that we can start doing online registration and payment for all of our recreation programs, including our pool. I think with this minor increase in the department's budget, it will have drastic impact on our ability to provide services and make a real great improvement. With that being said, SAC reminders. There is still some space available for summer SAC. However, we are almost full. If you are still in need of child care, please register your child as soon as possible. Please be sure to include the late registration fee. Packets are available at the Recreation Department and are up on the website. Thank you for all the SAC parents who came out and supported us at the parent SAC meeting last week. We are looking forward to a great summer. I'd like to congratulate Julie on this one. We had some complaints last year with folks first time for summer SAC, not necessarily knowing where to go. It was recommended that we have a pre-meeting for all new people who are signing up so they know where to go, who to talk to, who's the responsible party, etc. And it seems we had a lot of newcomers as well as repeat SAC people come into this meeting and went very, very well. Summer SAC begins Monday, July 1st, and it will go through Friday, August 23rd. However, SAC will be closed on July 4th and 5th for the holiday. The Borough Pool will also be closed on July 4th. Recreation pool information. The pool opening went great. Thank you for all the supporters of the community pool. We thank you to the staff, managers, and supervisors for all their hard work. We would also like to thank the DPW staff and Parks Department for assisting us in getting the pool ready for opening. It looks terrific. Preteen nights will be on Tuesday, June 25th, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. for ages 9 to 12 years old. Bring a friend. It's only $5 a person. St. Peter's University Health Services will be holding their annual cancer screening at the Borough Pool on June 29th from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. This is a free service for all. This summer, the New Jersey Recreation and Parks Association is partnering with Homefront, a summer day camp to keep kids safe and engaged throughout the summer. The Milltown Borough Pool will be supporting this effort in collecting new or gently used bathing suits to help summer campers participate in swim lessons. The drive will take place throughout the summer until Labor Day pool picnic party at the pool. There is still room for swim lessons. If you or your child is in need of them, please look up for more information for upcoming events at the pool on the information board or on the Borough website. And Albert Avenue Summer Recreation is set to start for July 8th through August 16th. If you are still registering, please be sure to include the late registration fee. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving on, does any member of the council have any old business to bring before this council?
Actually, Council President, I have something I forgot to mention in my report. We got an email today that the lights on the bridge are fixed.
Main Street?
Yeah, exactly. So there was a little back and forth for a while on whose responsibility that was, whether it was the borough or the council, but I'm happy to report that the utility department was out there and they are fixed. So if you're driving to the north side, take a look tonight. The other thing I wanted to mention was a couple weeks ago we had our next installment of the Strategic Planning Committee meeting. That was on quality of life. So we had a really nice crowd and a nice discussion, and Councilwoman Kerber took excellent notes, minutes, which will be up on the website shortly. The next one is going to, and should be the last one, so then after that we will go through and come up with some targeted goals. The council will do that together. Before that, we will have one more, which is sustainability, and that will be on Wednesday, July 17th, here in Borough Chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any old business?
Yes, I do, Council President. I just wanted to let you know, the 2018 annual report, all councils received this. Of course, so did the police department. We were in here. I mentioned the awards that we received for 2018 and 2019, Safe Routes to School, as well as Safe Places to Work for the Complete Streets and Streets Smart campaign. So this was distributed throughout the county. In addition, I received an award, Sustainability Award, the Sustainable Raritan River Collaborative and Rutgers Sustainable Raritan River Initiative 2019 Sustainable Raritan Award. I went on to June 7th and I received it for the Outstanding Achievement in Stewardship. So. Thank you. And I'm going to conclude the old business.
Is there any other old business? If not, new business?
Yes, I have something to bring up. I noticed across the street, on the project across the street, every time it rains, there are mud tracks coming out of that project running basically all over town. I know the Freehold Soil District requires a 50-foot tracking pad with 2 to 3 inch stone. I do not see that tracking pad there. Can we ensure that the project coordinator makes the contractor follow the rules and install a tracking pad to not allow silt and dirt to get into the streets and into our sewer system?
Actually, just to bring you up to speed on that, we were waiting for the telephone pole to be moved, and that should be scheduled. Mike, you can verify that. I know a purchase order was sent to have that pole moved.
We're waiting for a date.
And then, Yeah, once that happens, then I believe that the pad will be put in to stop that. That was holding it up.
Okay, well, what does the treasury pad have to do with the telephone pole? I don't.
Yeah, they're gonna
Well,
pay,
they're going to pay due to rough code.
right.
Oh, they're gonna
Yeah.
base, they're gonna base, is that the plan, like, they're gonna
That's
base it
what
out?
I've been told.
The public services, the pole public services have to relocate, that's basically the issue with regard to the pay. We'll find out a schedule, make sure we get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question, actually. It brings up the special project coordinator, and I thought I just saw this. On the September 17, 2018 meeting minutes, which we approved tonight. 6 months as of October 1st. What is that? I'm kind of thinking out loud on this one. October, November, December.
Those resolutions were adopted, they were proposed amendments to the resolution that were not adopted, it was an original. I know exactly.
Oh, that's right, we proposed amendments, which people shot down their own amendments. So where are we with that one? When is that term up?
It's not a term position.
I thought it was a year.
It was not.
It was supposed to be 6 months.
No, it was, the way the resolution was originally written did not have a term in it. There were two different times that two council members proposed in separate things, 3 to 6 different amendments to the resolution. Each time those amendments were addressed by the council, they were voted down and was reverted back to the original resolution, which did not have a term, it had an effective date of appointment.
Right, all you had to do, Rich, was vote yes with us, and it would have been 6 months, but you voted no.
No, I did vote yes, and then you guys voted down your own amendments, if you recall correctly. It's right here. September 17th, 2018. In any event, I think we should probably put something on for the next meeting because as it seems like most of the work is gearing more towards the building and less towards the site work, which I think was the intent of the special projects coordinator, we should kind of reevaluate whether or not that position is needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other new business?
Yes, I just wanted to let you know, I finished my Green Infrastructure Champion program. I completed 6 classes out of 9, and that allowed me to reach out to some of the high schools. With the Low Birds Watershed, we're providing a curriculum program. In addition, I mentioned the fact that I completed my Green Infrastructure program, and I now have 3 high schools, East Brunswick, Town, all going to be working on green infrastructure projects, and I'm hoping that Milltown will also continue that. We will be getting more information finalized for the rain garden, which is going to be on the left-hand side as you enter the parking lot by the rescue squad, and bites and balls to be planted by the Eagle Scout, Tyler, and also hopefully with the JK students as planned previously. That's it.
Is there any other new business? If not, we'll move on to audience comments. Anyone in the public portion of our meeting, anybody like to bring before the council's attention? Please step forward. The council will respect the public's time by refraining any comment until the speaker is finished. It should be further noted that public comment portions of our meeting are not structured as a question and answer session. A member of the public has questions they seek answers to, and an appointment can be made with the appropriate office during regular business hours or with a member of council during their allotted office meeting hours. Please state your name and address for the record when you come to the podium. You're there,
So you're calling me up in the end. Thank you, Council President. Russ, I'm on your 220B South Main Street, and I'll be brief, but I've been putting a lot of posts up on social media and on TV and other places too, but I just want people to understand that I'm going to put up something on the internet or our website to show you that it's a major change in the way we're doing the fireworks this year. And yes, we definitely are having fireworks. And Chief Smith, the man, he seems like a pretty good guy, right? We're going to have great fireworks, guys. Hey, stop that. Okay, but seriously, we have a great company, Celebration Fireworks. They're a small company, so we're more important to them. It's not me last week, the guy just sloughed us off. This is basically what happened, if anybody knows, as far as I'm concerned. Make a long story short, though, what we're going to do is because of the new construction across the street, we can't shoot it from the same spot in the field, like where the Milltown sign was in the corner anymore. So, in order to still keep it in the park, we came, I think actually compromise. On where the area is to the Major League Field, just to the left of it, of the third baseline, where the basketball courts are, into the parking lot, is where the fireworks are going to get shot from. The bad news is during the day, nobody's going to be cutting through behind the pool to get to the park. We have to close that off totally because it has to be closed off so they can bring in the fireworks in the middle of the day. Nobody can go there. The good news is, at night, we have, instead of just by the terrace, we have almost, not the entire, but more than half of the old green park space between where the Milltown side is by that field, always up to the very first field. All that area you can sit on. So we encourage you folks to come, enjoy the music. I'll be playing, other things will be going on as well, our vendors. Bring chairs, bring blankets, hang out on the grass. We can put 1,000 people on that grass, on the glass, big park. So come and join us at the park again, the go-ways, but this time, get ready to hang it on the grass instead of on the asphalt. And I'll see you there, and if anybody has any questions, you pretty much know where to reach me.
Thank you. Yes.
Am I clear enough?
I was wondering what would have happened in the Borough if the budget didn't pass tonight.
Legally? Didn't pass? Option B, go back to the drawing board, or B, schedule the vote for another night.
Would they just have to stay with the town of how to shut down or anything like that?
No, we're, as Randy indicated, we passed a resolution, we're self-examination, so the state kind of stays out of it. However, eventually, if it goes on long enough, he'll get a nasty phone call from the state, like, where the heck are you? Okay, so, that's what happened.
So all of this is effective for July 1st, right?
What's that?
All of this was
January.
January. Oh, I thought this was from January of this year? Holy cow, okay. Too blown away to ask the rest of my question, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, not right this time. One Desmond Avenue. I just want to make a comment about discussion about taxes and trying to reduce taxes in Milltown. I just want, I had served on the school board for 7 years. I did notice that there's 3 former school board members, including Trina, who used to be on the school board. And I will say, I want to just remind our borough that our teachers in Milltown are the lowest paid teachers in Middlesex County, some of the lowest paid teachers in the state, as are superintendents and administrators. If you look, you can look it up, you can Google it. And I know, Councilor Redmond, that you were also a rep to, town council to this, you know that we're a very open board, and for all the times that you've been in attendance, I've never heard you really present some of these concerns to the school board. I just want everyone to know in the township that we're a very transparent board, and when we prepare a budget, we bring it before the Borough and Town Council so it can be aired on television. And we're more than welcome to talk to any of you or any residents as to what we're spending money on. And we are happy to be challenged to be able to cut back anyway. So I know I hear you say that every now and then. I've heard you say that over the last couple of years. And I just want to make sure that this town council is aware that we have always invited you and any member of the Borough Town Council to please give us some ideas on how you think we might cut it. I'm happy that you're thrilled with your children's education and your own education and my education, and a few of us that were educated here, but even more so, something to be thankful for, that you have some of the lowest paid teachers in the state of New Jersey and administrators doing a very good job of giving your children a good education. So before we criticize and try to find money in the school board with our tax dollars that are being spent to educate our children, come to the meetings, and truly, if you really are concerned, please make some suggestions.
If I can just give
Thank you.
a very brief response. I don't need for my comments to be misinterpreted. I wasn't criticizing. All I was pointing out is that a very large portion of what people pay in taxes does basically just get funneled right through Borough Hall over to the schools. It's not you know, a lot of people think, God, Borough's raising taxes again. And I just need to, you know, people to understand at home that it's not us. You're not paying us the nearly $10,000 a year. Like there's, you know, we work on a very small margin of what comes in. And I commend you in your efforts, and I do commend the school board, and I know that one of my biggest pet peeves is that we have such a terrific school system, but the teachers are the lowest paid in the district. That bothers me, because I know what a good job, a terrific job they do.
Right.
So I am not criticizing the school board by any means, or the teachers, or what you guys do. I know you're doing a great job over there, and it's tough. I'm just merely trying to say that, you know, there's basically two governing bodies here that cover the majority of the tax dollars, and we are small in comparison to what we bring in and the work we have to undertake compared to, you know, you guys have a big task ahead of you as well, but I think you've got a lot more to get.
Right, well, Milltown is not unique. That's a problem that every borough has in the entire state of New Jersey and all 50 states. But there is a tendency in government and town council meetings to look for ways to divert our discussions about how other expenses are made. And so I just need to put that out. I challenge you about creative ways of cutting our school budget with the lowest paid teachers and administrators who are giving you a lot of bang for your buck. Thank you.
So we actually looked at this, and it's obviously, as you said, true in every single town in New Jersey that the majority percentage goes to that. In Middlesex County, Milltown falls in about the middle. The low is about 40 to 50% of your tax dollars go to the school board budget. I think the highest last year was about 75%. So I think Milltown falls in somewhere in the high 50s, low 60s. So it's everywhere that this is occurring.
Any other comments?
Phil Sunbrand, 40 Van Avenue. So, Mr. Stankiewicz and Mr. Barr, either one of you could ask this question. So, 2025 it gets better, 2026 gets better, right?
Well, there's
Sort of.
the debt service drops down.
Right, so it
Does
gets a
it
little
get
bit
better?
better.
That's only time will tell.
Okay, so until then, we just have to suck it up, right?
Depends on what projects need to be addressed by the governing body.
But until then, we should all suck it up.
I'm not saying that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes.
Lee Weisenberg, 99 David Drive. Ford Avenue came up tonight, $2 million return on the tax bill. Just for clarity, taxpayers make that up?
That's it.
Does taxpayers make that up?
Yeah. I still have to run the town.
What is the tax for Ford Avenue currently? Because we were supposed to find out monthly for the last year, I've heard nothing.
A lot of it is, refer to Mr. Bruder, our attorney, a lot of it is confidential court proceedings, that's the problem.
Pending litigation, what?
Yes, pending litigation.
So there is a legal bill attached to that per month.
Absolutely.
We are paying.
Absolutely.
Do we have any idea what that is?
It appears as though we are closer than we've ever been in the past to finally condemning the property, transferring it over to the redeveloper. And when that occurs, the redeveloper puts money into an account, we get to then take our tax dollars out of that account.
I can comment that under the current case management order, condemnation would occur by October 31st.
So we can't budget for the money hoping that it comes in. However, if things progress down the same time or timeline, we are making significant strides towards getting
Even
that
though
budget.
something would happen there, there's no guarantee we're going to get any money out of it.
No, we're priority lien hold. We are priority lien hold. The money that goes in, we are paid out first, and then the federal government for their loan for the environmental cleanup.
When that property is sold,
We're not paying on that list, we're first.
We're pretty high on the top of the list, but again, that's subject to approval by the bankruptcy judge, so we are still litigating that. But we are clearly either at the very top or towards the very top, so we anticipate recouping our taxes
I will say,
on the sale of
there is the black cloud looming over that as well. While we would recoup our taxes taxes, well, the chances are very good of us recouping our tax dollars that are owed to us. Once that project gets going with construction, we are going to be on the hook for certain water, sewer, and electrical improvements to the site for the developer as opposed to by the state. So it's going to be money in and then money out, but
I understand that.
we'll start generating
on a lot of things. Because like you said, the legal tab we haven't heard of in a long time. And I'm just curious what it is running.
But actually, the conversations with some of the government body members, we requested that Jeanette look for that. It's on the computer somewhere that the prior administrator had done an analysis of it, but she can't find it. And I was just told, I may have it in my office because I know the prior administrator sent it to me, so we'll try and get that information and get it updated for next meeting. But it is substantial. The other impact that we don't know is, Randy brought up before, the reserve for uncollected taxes. 10, 12 years ago, that number was 0 in our budget. We have to raise that in our budget. Now it's almost 600 grand. That's tax impact as well. Okay, and that's because we used to collect 100% of our taxes in the fiscal year. Now we don't. And part of the problem is that we have to raise that money. We have to raise X amount of dollars to support ourselves, the county, as well as the school district. Part of it is because we don't collect about 400,000 or 500,000 of it. We have to raise that in our budget. So that has had a long-range impact that was not present 12 years ago. And it's substantial.
why don't we, I'm sorry, why don't we collect that money? Just so the public's clear.
Well, we bill it, but we don't collect it.
And for clarity, for the last 2 years, it's been $2 million. What is the exact number?
Well, the lien is in the neighborhood of 2.2 million. So approximately $400,000 a year, I believe, get off the top of my head, is the annual tax impact.
You're talking about 4 days?
I've heard 2.4. I've heard 2.4.
I've heard 2.4 for 2, 3, 4 years. I
have it in my briefcase.
It should be $5 million right now, but every time somebody says it's 2.4.
No.
2.4.
Has the borough collected any fines from them?
Are we still finding them for anything?
There's been a concern that it might be raised that we were somehow persecuting this gentleman if we continually went after him for violations, so.
With respect to the taxes, most recently, the calculation was 2.3 million, not including penalties and interest, which could raise that up almost another million, between 800 and million.
So that number's been increasing
Increases
yearly,
every quarter.
every quarter.
And Mr. Borough, was it the legal team that suggested that we not fine?
Not to my knowledge.
So who made the decision not to levy fines?
That would be something that would be within the municipal court's purview, so I'm not aware of that decision.
I'm still fascinated on the legal bill. This has been ongoing how many years? And,
15
you know, why we don't get a monthly bill on what it's costing us? For the attorneys at least, or something.
Oh, we get a monthly bill. The governing body gets a bill monthly.
But we don't hear anything.
Well, it's on the bill list. They're on the bill list.
We
But
can start highlighting that for you.
Like I said, Ron, we talked last year, every month we were gonna get a report on Fort Avenue, what we get.
Unfortunately, the wheels of justice are moving somewhat slowly as well, so I think we've got a meeting coming up next month with final answers on a decision that was supposed to be held back in April. If you've noticed in council meetings and you attend, we've done certain things and approved certain actions to follow through with the court's orders to follow up with condemnation proceedings. However, we have to work with the developer and most of it because he foots the bill for certain aspects, certain professionals. He has to agree to the ones chosen and selected, as well as we still have to deal with the property owner. And the courts have somewhat been unresponsive. Only recently have they basically opened the doors again and said, oh, that's right, this case is going on. Let's continue to talk about it. So.
I'm moving along. Like I said, because if something does happen here, eventually it's gonna. We're talking 2025 here, we get relief. There's gotta be no relief, we know that. We got water problems in town with the mains and stuff, they gotta get fixed. I understand that. The force main with North Brunswick is gonna be astronomical. And if we're at 50% now of what you're saying, borrow capacity, I see big problems coming. I don't see how we can get around that.
Unfortunately, would be out of the utility fund.
Doesn't matter.
But then again, it's all back by the taxpayers, regardless of where the funding comes from, but that should not, as long as our water rates are proper, should not eat into our borrowing capacity.
That's still gonna cost the taxpayer.
Yes, no, I mean, it's coming out of the same pocket.
It's also one of the reasons why I proposed that we look into a private utility company, because we're gonna have some significant costs coming down the road. And I'd rather have them there and spread it out amongst, 1 million customers throughout the state than just the 7,000 customers in Milltown.
I'm curious tonight, you brought up about the lead too, about just trying to help a few people in town. We had a lead pipe problem. If I'm not mistaken, Newark got a bunch of money from the state because they're redoing their whole place. And I don't know who got that deal. I'd like to know.
They have been able to qualify income levels. Unfortunately, your income level in Milltown is above the allowable limit. New York is not, so that's how they received it in Milltown. It was unable. You can get low interest loans, but unfortunately, the grant portion was outside the reach.
Okay. Wait, you there, Mike? Logo on the tank, not coming? Got canceled? Cost too much?
There's some paint issues with the tank. Logo is, should be, depending on what happens next week or so, should be done in another 2 weeks or so.
Okay. All right, question for the auditors. You made a comment tonight, Mr. Barr. Statutorically, you said it was okay. But you said, you hinted that you didn't like something else about the budget.
I didn't hit anything.
It sure seemed that way, or it was inferred.
Well, I didn't say suck it up to the taxpayers either. But
I'm just looking for clarification.
I said my job to do a self-exam is statutory. And statutorily, the budget meets all the statutory requirements. That's what the self-exam is for.
But you said you didn't like it, so you just
I didn't like it. I didn't say anything about not liking it. I
thought that's what you said.
I don't vote on the budget.
I understand that. I'm just looking for clarification.
I said statutorily, we meet all the criteria for the budget.
Okay.
That's what I said.
It's not.
If you're reading it,
I'm not.
It's not my fault.
It's not a commentary either, members, on the numbers. It's merely that it meets the certain criteria, which are all elaborated in the resolution.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. That's it.
Nick, I don't like the budget. Any other audience comments?
Phil Zembrana, 20 Denver. Mr. Barr, I appreciate you not saying suck it up, because that's really unprofessional from you if you actually said that. That's almost as bad as saying, if you don't like it, back up the moving truck to the front of the house and move. Thank you.
Which again, I didn't say, so I'm not sure where your comments are coming from.
Any other comments? Not the good council comments.
Yes. Council President Dixon. I brought with me tonight a book that I picked up for each of the council members a couple of weeks back. I had the opportunity to meet with Major Dan Rooney, who started the Fultz Vonner Foundation. And in here he talks about the power of volition, the power of time and place, the ability to make a difference in the world. If you read it, and I really hope you do, I think you'll be inspired, as I have been reading this, to really make every effort we can to improve the world around us. Less than 1% of our military, or our citizens serve in the military these days, and Major Rooney is a fighter pilot. One thing I'd like to point out, that in the front of this book, you'll actually see a term CAVU, C-A-V-U, and it stands for Ceiling and Visibility Unlimited. And while for a fighter pilot that might mean something completely different than us, Major Rooney pointed out that this is more about inspiration, and that if you set your mind to anything, that ceiling and visibility is on, that one's actually yours, Nick, it's signed. You can sign it. With that, I hope everyone does take an opportunity to read it. It definitely changed the way I look at things, and if anyone at home is interested, it's Major Dan Rooney, The Patriots Calling, Living Life Between Fear and Faith. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there any other council comments?
So I'd like to wish everyone a happy 4th of July. I'd also like to congratulate 2 scholarship winners, Trent and Paige. And I'd like to thank Councilman Revelinsky for this book. I intend to read it, and I couldn't agree more with him. What I will say, though, is, as I'm sure Council President Dixon knows, when you're in the military, what's more important than working together as a team? So therefore, I don't appreciate the snark that went on here tonight when we sat up here and raised everyone's taxes $300. That's $300 you can't spend on your families, you can't put aside for a vacation fund, you can't go out to eat or buy a new toy. So if we could work together, and part of the reason why I voted no on the budget was, as they explained, if it went down, that would force us to get back, all of us to get back together and talk about how we could have come up with a better budget for the borough of Milltown, so that each one of us was aware of what was going on. Unfortunately, we're not all aware. I wasn't aware until the Recreation Department report that the Recreation Department is getting another employee and $10,000. I would have thought that as 6 governing body people, that we would have all gotten together and said, great, that's a great idea, which I really do like. However, maybe we need it more this year over here. So I would implore us to be like the military and work together as a team instead of working individually, not being transparent, not sharing information with one another. And I really think that we would be a stronger governing body and which would lead to a stronger Milltown. So I appreciate you bringing this for us, and I hope that going forward we can do that and not have to come up with something that all 6 of us could get behind. If there was something in the budget that you didn't like, we could discuss it, or if you thought it was a really good budget, come to those of us who had no idea what was in it and sell it and say, this is a really good idea, here's where I think we should do it. And I would have said, great, but I don't want to get up here when we're voting on it and have it placed in front of me with no knowledge whatsoever. And I think we can do better for the ratepayers of Milltown.
Any other council comments?
Very well said.
Thank you.
Well, what I would like is what Randy Barter's going to do in VA is get departments to really plan. It first comes with department heads, the departments themselves. Instead of just getting the budget every time, like August to September or November, whenever they get it, here, what do you need, hurry up, go, get it done. Hey, it's time to really plan, and it starts with them first. They do day-to-day operations. It's like our fire department. They're our volunteer fire department. They're here for us. They're here to support us, whatever happens in town or outside of town. They're there to back up other towns as well, just like our rescue squad. It's the same concept. You know, you got the rescue squad, they control their spending and whatever they do with membership and everything else, they have to do that for themselves. Well, we need to show that first throughout the departments, plan out, which we haven't done. We can just project, you know, this for capital, that for capital, but we don't plan it to say, okay, now it's time to do this little project, move forward with another add-on to it, so you can see improvements. Like, perfect good example, playground equipment. I'd love to replace all the swing seats. They're terrible. They're all mixed. They're not, you know, safety at all. Even the chains are not. That's something that should be put forth. That's small to start off with, and then grow to take care of the rest of the playground areas, and grow to take care of the trees that are dead, that are in the parks, and then plant new stuff, or however we got to do it. It's just another idea, a simple idea, but that's the bigger, costly things. Yes, they're going to take time to plan, and they've been planned forever from the engineer of what we need to do. But now, when they're gonna plan 1 to 3 years or 6 years, that's when we can really project out, really have the council more involved and be part of the whole process, including employees. They're here for us day to day. So that's my opinion.
Well, with all due respect, Councilwoman, you've been part of the Finance Committee since January. Where was the planning there? Council President Dixon, I believe, has been the chair of the Finance Administration and Planning for 3 years. Where was the planning that happened then? You were on the Finance Committee, and the Utility Department head was not consulted about his budget.
Well, the
Where's
day
the planning in
he was
that?
not, he went home sick. The day that we were supposed to meet with police
He
chief,
couldn't pick up the
public
phone
works,
and call
and him.
him.
He was very sick.
For 5 months.
He said, well, the one time, that's all I know, and I didn't, not, that's it.
So he has one shot and that's it.
Well, I'm just saying, that he did one time, he wasn't able to make the meeting, and then after that, I haven't been able to make every meeting.
Don't you
I
think to
whatever
have a
it is I
good
can.
budget, you could have called him up and said, hey, John, we're working on the budget. You want to stop in today? I think it would have been important enough for him to come in.
Well, again, you have the CFO, professional, to handle that as well, and then to report back to the committee. And if we have to meet with them, we meet with them. So that's the process we need to work with.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have a resolution to go into executive session. Councilman Legato.
I am ready, sir. I move that the resolution to enter into executive session be approved by council and that council will enter executive session immediately following the vacation of council chambers by the public. Council reserves the right to take action upon returning to the public session.